1805, and 1809 Maryland Avenue Northeast. These properties currently have two different zoning classifications, MU7 and RA2. And so obviously the properties front on Maryland Avenue, which is 120 feet wide and is further enhanced by 20-foot building restriction lines on each side that create a 160-foot really wide grand avenue that can accommodate more height and density. We received feedback from the district that there was a desire to have an enlarged map amendment by including the adjacent property located at 1813 Maryland Avenue. So after reaching out to the owner of the property, we've agreed to jointly pursue the zoning map amendment application together. So this will bolster our objectives, which are to develop a project that will enhance the community, fulfill the mayor's goals of a housing production while being consistent with the comprehensive plan and the future land use map, and fit in with the surrounding neighborhood fabric. So Sam, can we jump to slide 2? Thanks. The site now consists of 4 lots, as you saw, with MU7 and mostly MU7 and RA2 split zoned at 1801 Maryland, and then RA2 zoning for the other 3 lots. All are improved with 4 6-unit multifamily buildings, and they're bookended by the Aldi to the west, and a medium-sized 30-unit multifamily property to the east. All units are currently 1-bedroom dens, and there's no off-street parking at the moment. So a little bit about RA4 zoning on this slide. It's the classification we plan to pursue via the map amendment. Our application we plan to pursue will remove the split zone at 1801 to be MU7 exclusively, and then change 1805, 1809, and 1813 Maryland from RA2 to RA4. And so we're still in discussions with the Office of Planning about this. The application might be slightly different, but it would not propose an enlarged potential zoning envelope. Sam, can you jump to the next slide, please? So this slide provides some context of our block and highlights the properties from the right to the left on the slide, or to orient you from Starburst intersection heading east. There is a significant steep grade on Maryland Avenue. So as you head east, 1825 Maryland is a 4-level multifamily property, but it's on a much higher elevation. So it makes it feel more like 5 or 6 stories. And one of our goals is to establish a smooth transition between the Aldi and the neighborhood that will enable us to deliver on our objectives we mentioned earlier, and echo some of the objectives in ANC 5D's current map amendment, case number 19-30, which was recently submitted, keeping and concentrating mixed-use developments along the primary transit corridors of the neighborhood. And so when we jump to the next slide, you'll see that with 1813 Maryland added to our zoning map amendment application, we feel that the transition's perfected while further bolstering the objectives we laid out in the introduction. So that concludes our presentation. We wanted to once again thank ANC 5D and members of the community for allowing us the opportunity to present. We very much would like to get your support, and we want to thank you for your time.
Thank you.
So thank you for that. I just want to note for folks that we do have a quorum now with 4 commissioners available here to vote. So we will be able to vote on our voting items, including this presentation that we just saw. They've done several presentations for us, and they've done a great job of incorporating a lot of the community's feedback. This is within my single member district, and we met several times. They've met with the community, and they've done a great job incorporating the nearby property owner, which was one of the primary suggestions from the neighbors, for consistency there, that we see the incorporation of the nearby property. And so once this has a zoning case number, which is a little bit different than a BZA, since it's a map amendment and not a PUD or a zoning adjustment, then we will make an effort to support this, just because the plan makes a lot of sense for us as a community, and the areas where there needed to be improvement, they've been able to incorporate that feedback and make this work for us. So given that history on this project, I move that we support the zoning case, and we'll have that zoning case number at some point once the filing is made. So they're coming to us very early in the process. So I move that we support the map amendment that was just discussed for 1801 Maryland Avenue. Can I get a second?
A second.
All commissioners in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Commissioner Blacknell,
Did we hear from?
you're on mute.
Okay. Any abstain? And so the ayes have it. Thank you. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. So we're gonna backtrack a bit in our agenda here. Since our chairman's on board, I'm gonna let him go back to the top of the meeting. We skipped those portions since we wouldn't be able to do adoption of the agenda or minutes without a quorum established. So we're gonna go back to the top of the agenda and do the roll call now that we have enough commissioners for a quorum, and run through the adoption of the agenda and the minutes.
Well, apologize for being late, but my internet went out. But good evening to everybody in ANC 5D. I'd like to welcome you to our June 9th meeting, our last meeting for the summer, but we'll probably discuss that later on if we want to continue. Roll call, 5D01, Commissioner Linhan.
Present.
5D02. That's Commissioner Shropshire. We have 5D03, Commissioner Motley. 5D04, Commissioner Blacknell. Commissioner Blacknell, you're still on mute. Okay, Commissioner Moore, 5D05.
Present.
5D06 is no longer have a commissioner for 5D06. 5D07 is Commissioner Lee, myself, and I didn't hear from Commissioner Blacknell.
So Dale, I'm unable to unmute her for some reason. I don't know if you're able to do that.
Can you, let me see if I can see her. If she can hear us, so she just raised her hand.
She actually walked away from the computer.
Okay. I'm also unable to mute Commissioner Blacknell. But know that she was able to speak earlier and was present. We need her back for a quorum, though.
Yes, either visually or.
Are you able to see the agenda on screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, are you trying to get online? I'm on my meeting. All right, bye. Did we get Commissioner Blacknell?
No.
I don't see.
I will give her a call.
Yeah. So we'll work on this, and I guess we can jump back ahead into the agenda a bit here.
Let's see. Okay, well.
I'm having a hard time keeping minutes while trying to juggle all these other tasks. If you don't mind, just taking a second.
Sure.
Okay.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's take a 3-minute recess, and we'll. Okay. No, we see Commissioner Blacknell.
Now she's back.
Hello, Commissioner Blacknell, you're on mute.
Okay.
We're trying to establish a quorum and we couldn't see you or hear you. So you are present for 5D04?
Yes, I am. I'm having problems over here in my area in my apartment building.
Okay. So we have a quorum, and we have the agenda, and we'd like to adopt the agenda. Commissioners, are any changes to the agenda?
I would like to add a grant from Ward 5 Mutual Aid, and also add a resolution to defund MPD and reallocate those funds.
Okay, two motions or one, Commissioner Linehan?
I guess I can do them one at a time if that's preferred.
Okay,
I would like to make a motion to add the Ward 5 Mutual Aid grant. Could I get a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Repeat that title again, Commissioner.
It's the Ward 5 Mutual Aid grant.
Ward 5 Mutual Aid Grant.
Yes.
That's an agenda item. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Now I'm hearing silence again.
Commissioner Moore and Commissioner Blacknell, are you muted?
I just wasn't voting aye.
Oh.
I haven't read the application.
The same for me.
To add it to the agenda?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Just to add it to vote no.
Well,
This is okay.
Someone's going to present on it this evening.
Yeah, we had a Ward 5 Mutual Aid rep that was going to present the grant, much like Kevin had done when he was printing his grant.
Yeah. I mean, I think okay. Well, then let's add it to the agenda, and that person can present. But I just haven't seen the application for it.
Okay.
I think that was sent to us all a few days ago.
Yeah.
All right. And next, the Commissioner Linehan, would you restate your second motion?
Yes. I also like to add a resolution to defund MPD and reallocate the funds.
I will second that motion for the addition. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Commissioner Linehan?
Aye.
Commissioner Blacknell?
I cannot vote on that because it's very hard to make decisions when you want to add something to the agenda, like maybe 3 or 4 hours before an ANC meeting, and other ANC commissioners, have not talked about it and everything. So I think that this needs to be discussed maybe at a special meeting.
Sure.
Commissioner Moore?
Same. I haven't, I've read the preliminary draft. I had some notes on the draft, but I haven't read the final. And I think it's a topic worthy of quite a lot of discussion.
Okay.
So just to clarify, the final is what I sent you last night.
Yeah. I mean, I read, someone else was still in the process of editing.
I had given a couple individuals some reading privilege and comment privilege. I wanted to see exactly where those comments would lie before presenting this. But if I don't have the support.
Well, I'd like to, let me modify that. Let me make a motion to add that as a discussion item, so we can start the discussion at this point. Can I get a second for that?
Second.
Okay, it's been second. All those in favor of adding defunding the Metropolitan Police Department as a discussion item, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner Blacknell and Commissioner Moore, I didn't hear a vote.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so that passes. And we will place that at the voting, at the standing presentations. Let's see how long it takes to do standing presentations. The minutes, commissioners, have you read the minutes?
Yes.
Any changes to the minutes?
None from me.
No.
Commissioner Blacknell?
No.
All right, like to make a motion that we accept the minutes from our it says April 14th, Commissioner Linehan.
Let me change that link. I'm on screen. The one I'm sharing is our minutes from last meeting. I should be able to update that right now. Thought I did that.
Okay. And just while we're doing some brief updates here, I just want to remind people or share with people who are new to these web conference style meetings that you do have some options at the bottom of your screen. If you have questions during the meeting, there's the raise your hand option, and there's also the Q&A so that you can submit written questions when there is a question that you want to share with the entire group. Or you can also raise your hand once we get to the public comments portion of the meeting as well. So just wanted to make folks aware that the meeting is still intended to be interactive, and those options are, if you are looking at your Zoom screen, they're at the bottom of your Zoom screen.
Commissioner Linhan, on the minutes, are they posted? The draft?
Yes, the draft
on our
is
ANC website.
Yes, it is. And this was
Okay.
also sent out to everyone.
Right, because I saw the meeting. So if there's no changes, I'd just like to make a motion we adopt the May minutes as stated, since no changes were indicated. Can I get a second for that?
Yeah,
Second.
second.
Okay. And all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, it passes 4-0. At this time, for the chairperson's report, really just like to report that our city and our community, the added stress of the police brutality in Minnesota with the George Floyd killing, that I know where everyone's under some stress, and I'm glad to see that Trinidad is still standing kind of strong, in Carver Lakes and Ivy City. But just knowing that I'm keeping everybody, we all should be praying for our city and praying for our leadership. And that as this summer goes forward, we heard last month that we were having the summer crime initiative in Trinidad, but just look out for your neighbors. And that's just what I'd say as we go forward, just look out for your neighbors, because, we're just gonna keep looking out for our neighbors and our young people, and especially our young men. We keep them lifted up. And that's all I would have to report at anything right now. Nothing else is outside of what's already on the agenda. Commissioner Linhan, you have some items you would like us to vote on for your treasury report?
Yes, so I'm still sharing this meeting agenda, correct? Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so here's our statement. I have redacted the account information, but this is exactly what we would be seeing online. We started with a beginning balance of $120,431.72 and ended with $114,371.52. These were a few purchases that were deposited. Here are the checks that have been cashed. We do have a couple that are still needing to be cashed, but this is where we have this $5,917 coming from. It's right here. So I'd like to make a motion to adopt the treasurer's report.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye. Commissioner Blacknell?
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Okay, that passes 4-0. Commissioner Linhan?
I would like to make a motion to reimburse, or I'm sorry, to pay our Verizon Fios bill. That is $142.61. Again, we have hyperlinked all of these bills right there, so you can see the exact ones. And then I would also like to make a motion to reimburse Commissioner Moore for paying for the Zoom license. Now that I've taken over as treasurer, she has stepped up to pick up some of these purchases that I may have done before. So thank you again, Commissioner Moore.
Sure.
And explain Commissioner Linhan why that change happened.
So just to keep me, I guess, a little bit more distance from the money, given I am the treasurer, I wanted it to be as transparent and as possible. Sorry if I'm not doing a great job explaining that, Commissioner Lee. So if there's anything you wanted to clarify, by all means, please.
Well, basically because as a treasurer, he cannot sign the checks for himself.
Exactly.
So on the reimbursements, and we cannot, we still don't have permission. ANC can't have a credit card. We have to write checks, and you can't sign a check that was written out to yourself.
Right.
So basically, that's the reason why we transferred the license, so we can continue.
Yes. So
right.
I guess I should have asked to see who is in favor for the first motion of the Verizon reimbursement or the Verizon payment of $142.61. Can I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, I heard 4 ayes.
Right, that passes 4-0. And then for reimbursement of the Zoom license, $46.63. Could I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That
4
passes
ayes.
4-0. Thank you.
All right. Is anyone here for the 5th District? Commissioner Moore.
So I don't see anyone online at the moment from the 5th District. I believe it might be a call-in number. So I'm looking for that call-in number, but don't see it as well.
Okay. How about from the mayor's office? Malik Miller or Dominic Chestnut?
Okay, I do see Malik. Malik's
Okay.
going to join us as a panelist here.
Right. Him up.
Hello, hello. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
How you guys doing today?
Doing well.
Doing well, doing well.
Okay, hold on. Let me go to my notes. Okay. Welcome to phase 1. As of Friday, May 29th, Washington, D.C. officially enter phase 1 of our phased reopening. The following announcements will detail the components of the first phase. The public health emergency is still in effect and gatherings of more than 10 people are still prohibited. We also maintain that masks and social distancing and frequent hand washing are critical for keeping our community safe. Non-essential retail businesses can operate. Oh.
I think we
Lost
lost
Malik.
your sound here, Malik.
Oh, can you guys hear me?
Yes, now you're back.
Oh, okay. Non-essential retail businesses can operate with curbside or front door pickup by customers for items ordered online or over the phone. Delivery of items ordered online or over the phone. No customers are allowed inside. Retailers may apply for space for curbside pickup at coronavirus.dc.gov/phase1. Barbershops and hair salons may operate as follows. Services may be provided by appointment only. Stations must be at least 6 feet apart. No waiting inside the shop. And also the following services are prohibited: waxing, electrolysis, threading, nail care. In addition to takeout, delivery, and grab and go, restaurants that already have outdoor seating such as patios, rooftops, summer garden can begin that space. No more than 6 people are allowed at a table. Also, restaurants that are not prohibited for outdoor space or that want to expand their outdoor space can also apply at coronavirus.dc.gov/phase1. The following parks and recreation spaces are now open: dog parks, golf courses, parks, tennis courts, tracks, and fields. Playgrounds, public pools, recreation centers, and other indoor DPR facilities are still closed. Contact sports are also prohibited, such as basketball, soccer, and football. Healthcare providers may also resume offering outpatient and other surgical procedures that will not unduly burden hospital capacity for COVID-19 related resources. Phase 1 for DC government, the Southwest DMV Service Center is open by appointment for access to 3 services: first time / conversion DC license / ID card, including learner's permit, and also DC vehicle titling and registration. Also, the knowledge test will be accessible. There will be no vehicle inspections or road tests offered at this time. Other DMV services remain available online. Appointments can be made at dmv.dc.gov. Neighbors can now reserve books from the library to be picked up curbside at 2 DCPL locations: Cleveland Park Library and Anacostia Library. You can also reserve books using the chat function on dclibrary.org, or by calling the library simply. For DPW, neighbors can now visit the Fort Totten transfer station for all normal operations, including bulk trash drop-off, food waste drop-off, household hazardous waste drop-off, document shredding, and mulch pickup. So again, for DPW, I'm not sure what the gentleman's name was on Twitter, but he mentioned, I want to say Commissioner Linehan was involved with it regarding the illegal dumping on Corcoran Street. So I rode past it. I did my sweeps that we usually do on Tuesday and Thursday, and I rode past and took pictures of all of the illegal dumping on Corcoran Street and flagged it to DPW. So that should be getting picked up very soon. For summer 2020, DPR Camp at Home will be including arts and crafts, culinary activities, science experiments, and outdoor explorations. This at-home option includes 5,000 fun packs, 100 self-guided activities, limited online engagement, and digital content. Fun and Sun Camp, if we enter phase 2, there will be 27 in-person locations that will accommodate 3 two-week camp sessions with 1,080 slots per camp session, 10 participants per camp. Please note that families who have already paid for in-person camp will receive a refund. Marionberry Summer Youth Employment Program will be going virtual this summer. 10,000 participants will work with public and private sectors partners beginning June 22nd. Young people should continue to check their emails and portals for important updates about their summer assignments. Organizations that would like to partner with us can go to summerjobs.dc.gov. For DCPS Summer School, virtual summer school will begin June 22nd through July 24th and will include K through 8th enrichment, credit recovery, and programming for English language learners and students with disabilities. If we enter phase 2, DCPS will have an in-person summer bridge program focused on grades 3, 6, and 9 beginning in August.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Is that everything from you?
Yeah, I think we've added a new walk-up testing site at Judiciary Square on F Street between 4th and 5th Street Northwest. No appointment needed, and the hours are 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Also, one in Anacostia at 1310 Southern Avenue Southeast. For an appointment, please call 1-855-363-0333. And
Okay.
let's say,
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Question. As we go, like I said, in the phase 1, one of the questions some of our constituents, you don't have street cleaning. And I understand that during the pandemic, maybe because, we know people are home and not moving their cars, not be able to go out. So I understand why you didn't have street cleaning. But, well, I still think you can have street cleaners and they just go around to park cars. Is anything to get street cleaning started back again? And some of my neighbors would move their cars, but I would understand if we could have street cleaning without ticket enforcement, just in case somebody doesn't move their car.
Got you. Okay, so let me flag that up to my director and I'll send you a personal email.
Okay.
And just a reminder for folks that you can type questions in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. And you can also click the raise hand option if you'd like to speak your question. We have a question here from Josh Kramer for Malik. Can you tell us about the coronavirus testing available at the Firehouse on Florida Avenue Northeast on Wednesdays from 4 to 8? Is that for everyone or just the people with symptoms who think they may have COVID-19? Is it free without insurance?
So it is any district residents presenting symptoms can get tested from 4 p.m. to 8 a.m. at the Firehouse. It is free without insurance.
All right, thank you. I don't see any other questions here for Malik. Oh, actually, we do have one more. Bree Love, you're allowed to talk. We can hear you.
Hi, everybody. Malik, I was just looking at the stats about the virus that's raging in Ward 5. And it seemed like the numbers are getting higher. And I had posed a question to you last month about
the shelter.
Yes.
Yes.
Not only the shelter,
go
but
ahead.
just Ward 5 as a whole. See, we're like the second highest in cases. So what is the mayor's office doing to connect with everyone in Ward 5? Is it the mayor? Is it the council member? What are you guys doing to connect with people? Are they were they negative and they became positive, or what is the case here?
So we've had multiple testing sites within different wards. We haven't got the Ward 5 yet, but from my experience, actually registering people, they come from all 8 wards. So I'm not sure if they're just coming to Ward 4. For example, we had one at 13th and Peabody maybe about a month ago. And I know me personally, I registered at least 50 people from Ward 5. So I'm not sure if they're just coming just because they have a free testing site and they're going back to their home, or I'm not sure what the case may be, but we are having testing pop-ups in different wards by August.
Okay, well, I'm sorry, you saying by August, and this is June.
Yeah, I understand. I'm just trying to give you a broader,
I understand what you're saying, but this has been going on for 3 months. I'm not trying to, be abrasive. I'm just wondering, how's the summer going to look with the virus is steadily climbing in Ward 5. Now, when you go to a testing site, you give them your information even when you get registered. So they should already know which ward you're from, correct?
Right.
So even if I was to go to Southeast like I did, they know that I'm in Ward 5.
Right.
Right. So it shouldn't be no confusion there. I'm just wondering, what is the mayor's office doing about the testing is fine, but is everyone getting tested? Is everyone being reached? Do you guys know, is everyone being reached? What is the mayor's office doing to connect with everyone? And everybody don't have internet. Everybody is not able to connect.
Right. So we usually go door knocking as far as when we're in that specific ward. We'll reach out to the commissioners, we'll post it on listservs, we'll door knock in the areas that are closest to the testing site. And what I can do is I could bring that up to my director. That's a good idea as far as trying to reach like the senior centers, try to get buses for them, or as far as like the detention centers, or just people who aren't able to get out, or people that do not have access to social media or technology.
Yeah, that well, I was looking for some kind of answer, when we spoke last month, and I haven't heard from you. And also, we have a children's detention center up here on Mount Olivet. Are you all supervising that area as far as the cases and the men's shelter? What do you have any answers for me about the men's shelter and the children's detention center?
So as far as for testing and actually reaching those, I'm not too sure. That will be on DFS, which is forensic science. That department and DHS are responsible for reaching out to all of the businesses and detention centers, shelters, everything like that. We're just like the eyes and ears who go out and help them reach those persons of interest. I haven't heard anything specifically for that men's shelter. I definitely flagged your question up. They just simply went past it. So what I'll have to do is I'll just have to flag it up again, see what else I can find, like, who specifically is reaching these target persons of interest, and who's actually going out to talk to them, or getting in touch with like the directors and stuff from those areas.
So as of today, no one has been in contact with the men's shelter or the children's detention center?
From my knowledge, I can't say no because I'm not sure. That's not in my slew of work. What I can do is I can try to find a contact there to see, you know, what day that they were contacted, or even if they were contacted.
Okay.
And I have your personal information.
Yes, or you can get in contact with Ryan. He's our ANC. You can contact him about the information, but that's kind of troubling, Malik, especially with everything that's going on today, and we can't get just plain answers about a virus that's been killing people for 3 months or 5 months rather.
And Sabrina, I appreciate you raising these concerns, and I am very concerned with the high risk environments that we have at the shelter and at the youth detention center. I think I've heard 85 residents at the shelter, where there's only 360 beds, have contracted COVID, and I think 5 of the security officers that work there, and one I think succumbed to his I guess his symptoms and ended up passing. But I've also heard some concerning things regarding the kids at the youth detention center being confined to their rooms for extremely long periods of time. First off, I don't think any child should ever be locked up, but it's troubling whenever I guess the solution for the detention center was just keep the kids confined, and then maybe we can slow the spread. But I mean, I would have much rather seen them united with their families whenever we were seeing this kind of outbreak.
And Mr. Miller, just to follow up, even on the testing, as I tried to get tested, following the rules, if you don't have any symptoms, a test is not being offered to you. But yet we hear that some sites are being underutilized. So I can see saying that, you know, if someone came to a test site, you don't have any symptoms, if you were busy at that place, that you would say, you know, can you come back, go to another center? But right now we're hearing that this, you know, that when the test centers open, they're underutilized, and people would like to get tested, especially when you live in a high risk area, to see if you are asymptomatic.
Right.
And just, you know, one thing that we've done as a commission, especially in my area, is that we've posted yard signs, you know, in the green box, in the tree box area between the sidewalk and the street, you know, with a short code so that people can text, even if you don't have internet access. You know, I'm not particularly, you know, going around knocking on doors when there's a pandemic right now. You know, I can understand a lot of people not wanting to answer their door, but making sure that we're finding ways that are low contact for people who don't have internet access to be able to get information about new testing sites. Our neighborhood, both in Carver Langston and Trinidad, are in the top 10 of neighborhoods in the district for folks testing positive. You know, luckily we have seen an increase in the rate of testing as well for our neighbors. And hopefully this new site on Florida Avenue will help with that for those people who can actually access it and know about it. And so I think that that's a really important thing for us as a community. For a lot of our neighbors, you know, internet access really is a luxury.
Ready? Any other questions for Mr. Miller, commissioners?
None from me, and I don't see any from the audience.
Did we hear from the Metropolitan Police Department?
No.
All right. Is someone there for Commissioner, for Councilmember McDuffie's office?
I don't see anyone from the council member's office. I do see one last question here from Ms. Diggs.
Okay.
Diggs, if you want to share with us, we should be able to hear you.
Good evening, everyone. How are you? I was wondering, we don't have a safety report this time, but I'm actually wondering, the Summer Crime Initiative is in effect, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So what are they doing? We've had multiple shootings here, as you well know. In fact, the one really, I don't know how to describe it. Multiple bullets. I was about to take my trash out. Had I gone out 1 minute sooner, I would have been in the middle of that. It was that close to me. And so, you know, I did see police come and they did do forensics. But I'm trying to figure out what can we do? What can we do with them? With the pandemic, the Summer Crime Initiative has got to look different than it did last year. Can I get some insight on that, please? Thank you.
Yes. So I think that's a great question. And we've had some leadership changes at MPD that have meant that we're not seeing the type of community collaboration that we're accustomed to seeing. Even during this time, we're not seeing a lot of the type of information that we're used to seeing. For my part, I have made a lot of direct calls myself in my free time, as the ANC commissioner, just to say, look, I want to be aware of what's going on here. What are you doing? What are the plans? What kinds of things are we looking to do? Especially given that the environment has changed so much. I still don't think that that's a substitute for having a conversation with the community as a whole overall. But what I can share with you is that we did have a conversation about technology and the key locations where we're seeing incidents like this, and making sure that we're using cameras as a deterrent for people to, basically sit and wait in certain locations in the neighborhood to shoot at people that they are waiting to shoot at. And so to put those things in place, to use them as a way to deter people from in certain locations that are, low traffic, where we're not seeing a lot of foot traffic, we're not seeing a lot of car traffic, we're just not seeing a lot of people move that way, to have something in those blind spots so that it's not encouraging people to just kind of sit and wait for people. So that was a lot of the conversation we had about some of the things going on in the area. But I agree that that's not a substitute for the full on community engagement at meetings like this.
I very much support what you're saying, Commissioner Moore and Ms. Diggs. I appreciate you bringing this up. I also have noticed a drastic decline in the kind of information we've been getting in the last couple meetings. I was hoping to see some kind of change in this meeting. We had a hostage situation on the corner of Mount Olivet and West Virginia Avenue just last week on Thursday, which I have tried following up on to get any information, but have not heard anything, including reaching out to the commander just to see if I could get something directly from him. But I can understand things are busy, but that is not an excuse for keeping an entire community in the dark.
Well, I was hoping to hear from someone tonight since we had our SMD meeting and they actually didn't show up at that point either. And that's two important meetings that they're missing. And so I see what you're saying. The collaboration is null and void or virtually not happening.
Non-existent.
Whereas before we had what I thought was a good rapport with the prior captains. But
Agreed. And just to clarify for folks, the invitation is a standing invitation,
yes.
And the panelists receive, just like folks in the community who are on our email list, the panelists also receive emails and email reminders, a week prior and the day of.
Well, I know we're doing our part, that's for sure. Thank you.
Mm-hmm, sure, thank you.
And Mr. Miller, since you're still on the line, you heard the comments. Can you do some follow-up? He's still there, right?
Yes, you're on mute, Malik.
All right, well, let's move on.
Yeah, I don't see him. All right, what's next on the agenda?
Our voting items.
Ready? First item. I lost my agenda.
The first item was technically the grant for food distribution funding to New Samaritan Baptist Church.
Oh, yes. Commissioner Linehan, can you put that letter up?
Yes, 1 second. I've got to pull up my email.
And while he's doing that, New Samaritan Baptist Church has been distributing food every Wednesday at noon. People are lining up at 10 o'clock, unfortunately, but they've been out there every Wednesday at noon distributing food to Trinidad residents or Ivy City. It's not limited to Trinidad residents, whoever want to come to the church. That's one location every Wednesday because just like everyone, church members are out of work, and church members, since they're not coming to church, they're not giving. So they're having a little financial crisis there. They were because of that, they wanted to stop on June, the last Wednesday in June. So I suggested they request a grant from us so they can continue throughout July and August, because I don't perceive the pandemic things changing for a lot of people. And plus, financially, if you do go back to work and start being repaid, you're still in a hole. So food is always a necessity. And we're having a large turnout, like 150 people a Wednesday who are requesting food. So the food comes from the Capital City Food Bank. So that's where the food is purchased. Also, the food comes from Trader Joe's. And Trader Joe's donates the food. And this food that they donate, fortunately, they donate things close to the expiration date, but not expired. So when things are about, or something that's slow selling. So they combine that with what they get for the Capital Center Food Bank and able to give residents 2 bags of food. They don't ask family size. If you want the food, you get it. It's not based on your family size, just what they have available, trying to give a little assistance to everyone in the neighborhood. Like I say, this has been a project they've been doing all year, but like I say, because the pandemic and church being closed and collections being down, it's starting to pull a drain on their missionary funds. So I'd like to make a motion that we do a grant for the 8 weeks of July and August. The food bill is about $750 per order. This will not exceed $10,000, but that amount for the July and August Wednesdays. If you see that, can the community see that, the request there?
I'm having trouble seeing it, and I hadn't seen this prior to the meeting. So I think, we had discussed this at the committee of the whole meeting, just to get a sense of how much we thought we'd be spending in support of, the good work that they're doing. And I know that they're definitely doing it. It's just difficult for me to vote on something when I just haven't seen what their exact budget is and how many people they're planning to feed with the $750. So I am, I've been in support of it the whole time, but I'm just also wanting to make sure that, when we're supporting this, that we're, tracking the information so that we can say, okay, you spent this amount of money, we have the receipts for it, this is how many people you were able to feed. And so we're tracking, where the money's going, how it's being spent, and then, how many people are being helped. So I guess I would say that I'm, definitely in support of, I think it's $6,000 we're wanting to spend in support of the program, but just wanting to put some parameters in place, as we move forward, so that we know, okay, this is how much we're spending per week, and this is how many people are being fed as a result, and we're keeping track of those things.
And I will agree with you, and this would be a reimbursement after they submit receipts that they already purchased the food.
Yeah. So
it wouldn't be a check written for them for the $6,000, as somebody did the calculation for me. Yeah. It won't be a check for the $6,000. It would be a reimbursement. So every time they purchase, we would reimburse them for the service. Yeah. So, and that's one of the parameters I would request too, that we're not just giving them the funds. And so we know that the food is being purchased weekly.
I would agree with that, because I'm just saying that because typically we do it the other way around, where we say, here's your grant funding, And then we want to see your, because we've approved it in advance and we've seen all the paperwork going into it. In this case, we're doing it the other way around. So we're basically approving the money and saying, give us the receipts.
Right. And that's been one of the things that I said, even with grants, as we discussed them before, I said, we have to see, somebody has to put the effort out. That we know that, because we can't really monitor. This is the only way I know we can monitor that when we receive the receipt from the Capital City Food Bank, that they have already purchased the food and service the families on a weekly basis. So I know it makes a lot of work for us as far as submitting those checks on a weekly basis, but I think anytime we need to be more accountable on how we spend our funds and knowing that our funds are being used for the purpose we intended for. And in this way also, if they don't do a week for whatever reason, if the pandemic rises and, they don't have any volunteers to get the food or something happens to the Capital City Food Bank, we won't have to be seeking a reimbursement from them. So I agree with that. I think that's the way we should flow with all our grants, that we should see the person needs to, submit some receipts and see that they're doing the work.
And we do have a comment here from Zach Hoffman.
Yes.
Just commenting that, that's a lot of money to distribute food that's donated. What is the money going to be used for?
Okay, the money is the food is not donated. Capital City Food Bank charges for the food. That's how they operate. I think on an individual basis, they will give you food, but they request funding from churches when churches go there to get the food. So it's not donated food. Now the food from Trader Joe's is donated, but that's not included in the cost.
Okay. Okay, yeah. And just a similar comment from Ms. Mansell to say, yeah, the food is is expensive.
Well, depending on what it is, I think it's come from the Capital City Food Bank. I think it's expensive also, really good think about it. But like I say, they have to operate. And they're a large operation now, they expanded. I don't know if anybody's been over there to Fort Titan. It's a huge facility. And they do service all over the city, not just DC. I think it's Maryland, probably Maryland and DC, the distribution that they do there.
Okay. So basically, I think we've had all the questions from the public, unless the commissioners have any other questions or comments.
That's true. I see another.
Commissioner Lee, do you know if they're doing any outreach, or do you just have to know about this food giveaway?
Well, because they were doing it all along, so yes, they do outreach. This is the need is only because of the lack of donations from that the church are receiving, and trying to maintain expenses. They're still employing people. They're still paying salaries for their staff. Just because we haven't had church. Well, we have a small online church service. Just the collections are down. Oh, somebody said they seen signs for this on Maryland Avenue at Chick-fil-A. I didn't know that.
That's all I wanted to know, if there was any kind of signage or any kind of post, because I had not heard anything.
But the word goes out from the families. It's really a word of mouth. They were giving away food once a month, and then it went to weekly, because it's always in the clothes giveaway. They're not doing clothes anymore because it's just too much close contact. This is all done outside.
Yeah, and we just have one more public comment from Laura Boyette. Sorry about that. 150 families at $750 per week. That's $5 per family. To put it in perspective.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah.
And the food is appreciated. If anybody's around on Wednesday at noon, and it goes pretty fast too. That's another thing. They're not out there long distributing food, because like I said, they line up at 10 o'clock. And they all appreciate it. That's one thing. And they sort of ask, could it keep going?
Okay, so I think
So I'd like to make a motion that we support New Samaritan in their endeavors to continue to feed the residents of Trinidad, Ivy City, and Carver Langston, because we do have a little connection up there. I don't know if people come that far, but I know we do work with Carver Langston at a lot of activities, especially on our food giveaways.
And just to clarify, this is for reimbursement?
Reimbursement.
Okay.
So they will submit the receipt and we will reimburse them.
I hate to ask because I don't want to put any fiscal value on food at this time, but just because there's not much information on exactly how the money is being spent, I would love to see that, but I support.
Oh, well, you know what though? That receipt would say what they purchased.
Yes. I'm just saying within this document here, what we are presenting right now.
Right. And we won't go over the 750. So if they buy more, I mean, just be clear that we're capping at the 750. I mean, if they decide to purchase.
We do have a question here from Ms. Diggs.
Okay, Ms. Diggs. She's going to be online or?
I'm sorry.
No, you're able to talk.
All right. You said Carver Langston. If I'm not mistaken, to my knowledge, we've had one short and very small food distribution here since the pandemic. Are you saying there are more happening that I'm not aware of?
No, we get people from Carver Langston. You know, the church has a relationship with the Hartsfield Center, the people who run the
Patsy Hartsfield, correct.
Patsy Hartsfield. You know, we do book bags, Thanksgiving baskets.
Okay, all right. So Commissioner Moore and Commissioner Blacknell, have we had some others that I'm not aware of?
We haven't had any yet, but we will. So ours will be we don't have a date set for beginning just yet.
Oh, so you're still considering. Okay, that's good.
No, so we do, but we do have a day of the week. So we've been working to get on a schedule. You know, a lot of the food distribution programs, you know, we're joining up with.
Right.
So, you know, that they have a process and they have a way of buying food in bulk that helps keep things cheaper for us to donate to. So we will be having food distributions on Fridays, every other Friday from 1 to 2:30 p.m. And so some information will go out about that as soon as we have the date of the Friday that will begin. And we are asking for people in the community who can volunteer and are in good health.
I was just going to offer to volunteer.
Okay, well, thank you. Much appreciated.
All right, thank you so much.
Commissioner Moore, Ms. Diggs, I don't know, why don't you try and connect with New Samaritan to see if that, since they already have the relationship with the Capital Center Food Bank, now, unless you have another food distributor.
One of the problems is the bus service up here has been extremely spotty since the pandemic. So trying to get to New Samaritan could be a problem for some of our residents.
And that's the thing. And we're, I would say that, I don't know if we went there twice, like say if they did something at Carver Langston, how much would it cost? But they had the volunteers that drop, pick up the food, it could drop it off there.
Oh, okay.
That's something, that, because I do understand that, because you can't really put people on the buses, like on the church, they're too small.
Right.
So that just puts people at extra risk. But that's what I'm saying. Something, I know they're open to working with the community on both sides because we've already established that relationship. And I am speaking because that is my church.
Yes,
so,
I know it.
And that's also, since it is my church, I do attend there. And so I know we would, Dr. McFadgen, who works with, does some women events there. She, I don't know if she would be the one you would connect with at New Samaritan or, because mostly it's family and women activities that they do.
Well, I appreciate that, but if Commissioner Moore and Commissioner Blacknell and Commissioner Motley can make it happen up here, that would be an actual good thing.
Yeah. And we will be having that, and I'll distribute information about that. We had to get permission from the apartment building that owns that area, just because the building itself is closed right now. So Capital Area Food Bank will be paying for all the food there.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Sure. I just want to keep us mindful on the time. We're about 7 after.
All right. So I just like a motion that we support New Samaritan in the reimbursement for their food distribution for the months of July and August with a limit of $750 per week.
Commissioner Blacknell seconded.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And because I'm a member there, I'm going to abstain. Thank you. I think that passes 3-0 with 1 abstention. Next on the agenda, voting item.
Sure. So the next voting item is another grant, and it's a similar style. So it's a grant allocation, which means that we don't shell out the whole amount. People submit receipts as they go. And that is a set amount of money that we're putting in place for violence interruption services for the ANC 5D area. So as many of you know, we do have violence interrupters who work in our area. They are funded through various grants. And so we want to do our part as a community to support the work that they're doing. And we want that to go toward training and salary support. Because it does actually require a lot of training to become a violence interrupter. The work is dangerous, and you've got a lot of people who are working hard to make sure that they're out in the community even during these challenging times to try to reduce conflict in the community that can lead to violence in a lot of cases. So we wanted to allocate up to $10,000, and it would work in a similar fashion as in, they shell out the initial money and then contact us for reimbursement as they go. And the only 2 violence interruption services in our area that would be eligible are the 2 that are currently functioning, which is Cure the Streets and Collaborative Solutions for Communities.
And Commissioner Moore, I wanted to clarify.
Commissioner Linhan, can you, because
Yeah.
we're wanting to support Ivy City. Can you speak to that?
Yeah. So I'm very supportive of the violence interrupters. Cure the Streets for sure has been the most effective means for disrupting this some of these occurrences in the community. I know that Carver Langston and Trinidad both have designated violence interrupters. So I was hoping to see language that would show that this would go to support the Ivy City community, so that all of our communities are supported by at least 1 violence interrupter.
So I think that that's a great idea, and I'd like to see the programs themselves expand. With our $10,000 right now, we're just not adding enough to budget for an additional full-time hire. But I do think that that's definitely something for us to add to our budget. When we vote, we're back in session in September, to say we want to vote to support a full-time position, and that person would be based in Ivy City. This $10,000 would just basically get us through the summertime, since we're still on our FY 2020 budget. And then at the end of September, we'd be on our 2021 budget. And I would definitely support adding another full-time position. But just with $10,000, I don't think they'd be able to pay someone to come on board for that small of an amount.
Would $10,000 then allow for this to expand to Ivy City currently? Because I know that Ivy City at times has very much needed a violence interrupter. I know that we've had individuals come over from Carver Langston and actually reach out to Ivy City community members when needed, but it's something that I would love to make sure that these funds are more directly affecting ANC 5D and where it is not being reached right now with a violence interrupter.
Yeah, I would support that. I just think we have to put more money toward it.
Well, right now, as far as with this addition, because we do have the interrupters in Trinidad, and I would like to see, and we've really had the times that I'm here, it's been kind of quiet in Trinidad. We have it's been one of the quieter times that's going on. So I'm not trying to, I'm hoping it continues. But in the neighborhood of Trinidad, it's been kind of quiet. I know it's been some problems on Mount Olivet Road with some incidents, and we still have our corners, but they have actually lessened during the pandemic, and that's a good thing. The fellows are still out there. I haven't been able to see the violence interrupted, but I haven't been out there that much. But I know Ivy City is is struggling, and I don't know why they were never assigned to Ivy City. So if some way, if any way, even on a part-time basis, that we would fund someone to go over to Ivy City to continue, even on a part-time. And if that means it has to be the person from Trinidad, I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to take that on and say, because I know what Commissioner Linhan is talking about. So it's been a lot of balance.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Commissioner
No,
Lee,
I get it, and I agree with it. I just think we have to fund it because the other funding comes from other agencies, and they're funding particular areas because they're studying those areas to see what happens. And so you do get crossover, but the crossover is usually, well, this guy on this side of the line has a conflict with this guy on the other side of the line, and so they're working to work those things out. But I think we should definitely put more money behind it and make sure that we do have a dedicated person. We have a question / comment on the community side of things from Ms. Bree Love. Who will they answer to as far as reports and situations? And this is in reference to the violence interrupters. As of right now, we have 2 different reporting structures. So in Trinidad, the Cure Streets Violence Interruption Team reports to the Office of the Attorney General in terms of the work that they're doing. They do also sometimes come to our meetings and share information with us about the work that they're doing in the community. I speak with them regularly about, what they're doing, how they're adapting in this environment. But they officially report to the Office of the Attorney General in Trinidad. And then in Carver Langston, you have the Collaborative Solutions for Communities group, and they report up through the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. So the ONE's office, and that's where their primary funding comes from. So this is sort of, at this point, supplemental funding, gap funding through the end of the year. And then I think we should definitely support, if we wanted to, which I think most of us do, funding for another full-time position in Ivy City, and probably some additional training funding as we continue to bring new staff members on board, since they're doing so much in our area.
well,
And just how they operate in Trinidad, they literally on the corner with the fellas, just talking to them. And like they say, they're trying to build trust. And so when that something does go on, they build a relationship through trust, so they can guide them and let them know that, give them opportunities or a way out to do something else. So they built that relationship. They're out there in the corner talking to them, not chastising them, but just building a relationship so they can encourage them to do other things. And that's what I observed them doing.
Yeah.
Yes, I see that comment there. Yes, that is what we need. I think that my goal is to give Ivy City some support. I think that's because we have it here in Trinidad, and
are we able to add that language, an amendment to this resolution to help direct the focus towards Ivy City? And if that's the case, I mean, I'm going to vote to support violence interrupters in any fashion. However, I would love to make sure that my constituents and my community is also seeing some of this help because it is often needed. And I know they're far more effective than other agencies when they're called.
Sure. I mean, I definitely support that as a friendly amendment. I think it's a great thing to add. But I think that the primary reason that we're a little bit at a loss on the dollar amount is because, we're kind of talking about this at the meeting now about adding someone additional. But, I think it would be worthwhile for us to have a conversation with the teams and find out, how much is it going to cost them to add a person?
Yeah, no, definitely.
Have a dollar amount that goes with that. So
I was on the call with the AG, I guess 2 weeks ago when they were speaking with Cody from Violence or Cure the Streets, and I did suggest that this was a resolution we were going to support to help Ivy City directly. So I guess I was misunderstanding exactly how this $10,000 was being used to fund violence interrupters. But again, like I said, I am going to support violence interrupters as the mayor is defunding these programs. Fun fact, I think the MPD has 80 times the budget that violence interrupters do. And so I'd love to make sure we're helping a program that is truly helping.
They have way more than 80 times the budget of violence interrupters. They have about 80 times the budget of the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, but that office does more than violence interruption services.
Okay, thank you for the clarification there.
So we will have the friendly amendment to add with a concentration for supporting Ivy City, since we already received these services in Trinidad and Carver Links.
Definitely. And then I think we just need to figure out what the dollar amount of the increase is. Because this is basically us saying we want to amend our budget to increase the dollar amount we're making available for violence interruption services. But I think we just need to figure out what the dollar amount is. So we could say that we want to use the funds to increase violence interruption services to go to Ivy City, pending, information on the salary for that person.
Okay. With that adjustment in this resolution, I'd like to make a motion that we support violence interruptions with the amendment for supporting Ivy City. So we will amend this resolution before we send it through. Commissioners, you have any problems with that? Or can I get a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Linhan. And I'll take a vote. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I think I heard Commissioner Blacknell.
Yes.
And so that passes 4-0. Commissioner, next item on the agenda.
So it's still me. We already voted on the map amendment on Maryland Avenue, beginning at 1801 Maryland Avenue. We started the meeting there because we lacked a quorum. So we're going to move to the public Wi-Fi feasibility study. I think just to give a brief synopsis, during COVID-19, what we realized is just exactly what Ms. Love talked about during the mayor's office portion of this meeting, was that we have a lot of neighbors who do not have access to reliable internet service. And so this is really something that the district government has been working on bits and pieces and slowly and in various offices. And what we're asking them to do is to do just an all-out feasibility study on all of the resources that we have to provide consistent, stable internet access in communities like ours where it's a utility bill that for a lot of people can be quite high. Our area of the country, even if you are paying for internet access, we typically have higher speed internet in this area, but it's also quite expensive as compared to some other areas. And so we really want the district to figure out what is the best way to move forward on getting people of all income levels access to the internet at either a very low or no cost, and whether it's feasible to have a public option or regulate it like we do utilities like water and power.
Commissioner Moore, I couldn't agree with you more. I think this is something that needs to be passed.
And until this evening, I haven't had any internet problems during the pandemic. I don't know if that was in my home, but they've already installed the 5G here on Holbrook Street. So they've already installed, we had that when it came out, in January, February meeting about the 5G addition. So they've already, we have it here in Trinidad, and I just realized I don't think any of my neighbors that are home working from home, everybody's been flowing here. But I wonder if it's because of that 5G tower that we have back there. But we have any problem, but definitely everyone needs internet. So I agree with you also, Commissioner Moore.
Yeah. I don't see any public questions at this time.
No, I think everybody would agree that we need faster internet. So we'll make a motion to support support the broader municipal internet access draft. Can we get a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Linehan. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, that passes 4-0. There is a question that just popped up, Commissioner Moore.
We've got a comment from Mr. Prentice. Yes, we do need more speed.
Okay, I'm not going to ask where Mr. Prentice lives, but we're
got lots of agreement here.
okay.
All right, and then the last item from me on the agenda is a letter of support. And this is something that Commissioner Blacknell has already sent a letter on. We already collaborated on a letter for this once before. But again, we're making the request of the DC Housing Authority. And at this point, because DC Housing Authority has not responded the way they need to on this issue, we're asking the Office of the Attorney General to follow up on the request for additional cameras at Langston Terrace dwelling. And that's just really part of the, you have these little hidden spots where, we continue to see shootings because people are lying in wait for people at the same location over and over again. And having a camera there, I think would be, a helpful deterrent, or at the very least, something that is a low cost thing to at least attempt to do. To see if that will deter people from hiding out in those spots.
Commissioner Moore and Blacknell,
Yes.
Langston Terrace, is that owned by the city?
Mm-hmm. It's a house.
Right, that's what, but I'm just saying, so also, I think you just need to modify this letter to request, this DC Housing has police.
Yes.
And do they ever come up there?
They do, but go ahead, Commissioner Blacknell.
Yeah, they do. They do. But it's a snag. Please, they're really short snag.
Because I'll be quite honest with you, the most activity I see DC Housing Police doing is writing tickets around Harris Teeters.
Yeah.
And pulling people over. I know that's where the office is on their way up, but I think I would like to see, just add to requesting more patrols from the housing authority. I know, since they're there, and I've never seen them up there. When I've only seen them around the Harris Teeters.
Yeah,
I've never seen them on patrol. I hope you guys see them, but I'm just saying that where I see them, they're not. If they're heading up there, they're stopping doing other things. So I don't know, so get some additional support, especially this time. I guess they should be included in the summer crime initiative also.
They are.
They are?
I don't think how is, but I know my is because on G Street where that circle is, there's a hot spot and they do be up in there. G Street in there.
Mr. Blacknell, but you're breaking, your audio is breaking up.
Yeah, if you could check your microphone. The interpreters were having trouble hearing you, but I did hear you mention that there were some hot spots that they had been patrolling.
And Commissioner Moore, do you see them?
I do see them. I don't see them as often as I think I should, but I do see them. And mostly that's on the 21st Street side of things.
Okay. All right. Because I just realized when I'm reading your initiative, I'm just realizing that I completely forgot them into it. But that's the only place where I see them. I don't see them riding into Trinidad up Bladesboro to get to your area. So I just wanted to make sure that. So if you, it's support the letter. I have no problem with it, but I just thought that to put them on notice that they could do more patrols also along with the cameras.
I think that's worthwhile, and I think maybe that this is to the Office of the Attorney General, just because the Housing Authority hadn't responded to the previous letter. But I think we definitely would support resending the letter to the Housing Authority with that addition.
Okay. All right. And so we're going to send this letter as is?
With the to the Office of the Attorney General, yes, and then send a separate letter following up with the Housing Authority.
Okay. Do we?
We sent one.
All right. So actually, does this need a vote?
Yes. So that
Okay.
is given great weight, and they have to respond.
Okay. All right. So if you let's do. Can you do 2 letters, and we vote on it now since this is our last meeting for the summer?
Yeah, I agree with that. And then we just had a comment from the community. Ketty, I live on the corner of Bennett Place and 21st Street, and I've never seen DC Housing Authority patrolling, only MPD.
Okay, so it is needed.
Yeah. Oh, it is needed.
Yes.
It is needed.
All right. So I don't know, Commissioner Blacknell, Commissioner Moore wouldn't make. Well, let's make. I'd like to make a motion that we support this letter for the DC Housing Authority to the Office of Attorney General. Can I get a second?
Second.
A second by Commissioner Blacknell. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And that passes 4-0. Commissioner Blacknell, we're still not hearing you. So I'm going to ask that Commissioner Moore make a motion for a second letter.
Yes. So I moved that we submit a second letter, and this one would go to the DC Housing Authority, following up on this same issue, and also requesting additional patrols from the Housing Authority Police.
Can we get a second?
I second.
That's second by Commissioner Blacknell. Commissioners, like I say, the letter was going to have the same wording, except focusing on requesting Housing Authority Police to patrol more frequent patrols. So I don't know who's going to draft the letter, whether it's Commissioner Blacknell or Commissioner Moore, but all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Passes 4-0. Thank you.
Okay. And then Ryan.
Next on the agenda.
Yes, so the art installation project that we had discussed at the last meeting and tabled this conversation. I didn't know if you wanted to go right into the vote or if you wanted to have Nando just present some of the changes that he had. He is already a panelist and said it would only take a minute or two. Is that okay with everyone?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yes.
All right.
He's still on, okay.
Yeah, you're still on mute, Nando. And I just want to give people a notice on the time here. We're right at 8:30.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great. Hope you are all doing okay. And thank you again for having me. Yeah, just I tried to add some of the feedback that I had last meeting and incorporate like also some of the feedback that I had in a few emails from different commissioners. So regarding the budget issue, I know that is an issue right now, especially with all that is happening. So because of that, I reduced the mural to only one wall that is going to be painted. Yeah, and the back wall will have all different the 5 different neighborhoods address. So I also tried to incorporate the suggestions of Commissioner Lee regarding the school and how to portray the neighborhood of Trinidad. So besides that, I just reframe, recompose the images. And of course, this is a sketch and it will be painted. It will be full color. I also try to accommodate the suggestions of the soundproofing. So I did my research. I'm not an expert, but I did my research. So I don't think there is a way that I can paint on top of a board. So that's why the back wall will be just painted as it is. But I found this company that they build this acoustic boards and we can print on top of them. So I'm partnering with another photographer from a local photographer called Conrado Muluk. He has done a lot of work in Ivy City and different neighborhoods around Northeast and also around the city. So he is an amazing artist and photographer. So we'll be printing his pictures, his photographs, some of them around what is happening now around the city. And, you know, I think that's very relevant to have a little bit of history being put on the walls. So it will be a board that, besides just helping with the sound and improving the sound of the room, will be like also hosting the work of this great artist from DC. So the idea is to have 7 of those boards. Additionally, there would be regular, like small print pictures of Conrado, but the main structures will be boards. So we have to find the best spots to place them. And also, yeah, that's I also try to address within the budget the main concerns of money. So as you can see, I'm placing the boards and all the printing pictures and part of the budget, and also paying to the photographer, and also part of my honorarium to paint this mural. And also I'm adding like extra hours that I'm willing to donate to the community, because I really like this project, and I think that this will be something that will uplift what is happening now in the community. So that's the kind of contributions that I wanted to make, and that is the changes. I don't know if you have any questions or comments. Everything is welcome.
Well, I wanted to say I appreciate you doing the research and finding a way of presenting, or I guess implementing art with the acoustic paneling that was requested by one of our constituents. And also very much appreciate you donating 50 hours of your time to paint this mural. I know that definitely helps a little bit. So thank you again for the time that it took to put this together. And I will leave the other commissioners to ask any questions if they had any.
Thank you.
The only thing I want to point out here is that I really appreciate you, really being mindful on the budget for us as well. What I'm seeing, and this is just because it's just a little bit tiny on my screen, is that it says $7,800. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So I would like to, if there's no other questions, I would love to, I see that we just had a comment from the person who suggested the acoustic panels. It said, this looks great. So thank you for the vote of confidence, Kevin. Very much appreciated. I love that you've implemented all of the communities here on the back wall and also using some photographs. I think this is very exciting to kind of warm up our very sterile walls. And I'd like to make a motion to support this grant. Can I get a second? Commissioner Lee?
Well, I still would like some more input on the design, and that I'd like to talk to Nando before he starts painting.
Sure.
I like what I see for the Trinidad, and I'm trying to get my history together. I'm trying to figure out that Langston Hughes picture.
It's not Langston.
Not Langston Hughes.
Okay.
John M. Langston.
It's who?
John M. Langston.
Okay, I was like, okay, so I always thought it was named after Langston Hughes.
His uncle. It's Langston Hughes' uncle.
Oh, okay. I'm like, hey, that was Stone. Okay, all these years I always thought it was named after Langston Hughes.
John Mercer Langston.
Yeah.
Okay.
And George Washington Carver.
I recognize George Washington Carver. Yeah, I recognize George Washington Carver. And you incorporated Gallaudet University, and that. So I will. cost is still, I'm still having a problem with cost on art. And because I questioned my mayor on the art under the bridges, that didn't look like art to me, but I question the art. So is there a second?
Well, I was making a motion. I'm looking for a second, so.
Commissioners? Well, Commissioner Leonard, I think it's, you know, can we rediscuss this then?
I mean, I don't understand. I think Nando has definitely, he's donated 50 hours. He's done his research on the sound paneling. He's implemented all of our communities, and he's going to leave something. I would like to recognize that we did spend $12,000 on an area plan, that we have nothing yet to see for that. And this is half of that. And this could be something that would be permanently fixed in the ANC community room.
Yeah. I mean, I do want to point out though that, you know, we spent money for an area plan to get things like jobs, you know, for people in the community. But I do think that this is important. I think the one piece here that I'm looking at, which is this large mural in the back, is really the primary thing that I'm interested in seeing. You know, so I think if that, you know, comment helps.
So are you, Commissioner Moore, are you saying to remove the sound paneling that I had suggested we keep as a separate project?
I mean, I'm just trying to figure out which is which here. So there's a mural here in the back, and then it seems like there was an additional, you know, photo.
So the photos are the sound panels.
The photos are the sound.
That's the acoustic panels right there. Yeah. So that's how we are going to break down that sound a little bit. But again, sound paneling is very expensive. If you've ever been to a studio, that's one of the first things they're going to say costs a lot of money aside from that.
I think it's definitely something that the, you know, the room could benefit from, to be honest. But I am looking at the cost here a little bit, just because we, you know, we need money for a lot of things like our violence interrupters, and especially if we're planning on not just sort of supplementing an income for a violence interrupter, but paying a full salary to add an additional interrupter. And we don't have a figure on what that salary is just yet. You know, I am a little bit kind of, you know, I'm still interested in this, but I think if I have to prioritize one thing over the other, because we are sort of flying blind on the salary for the violence interrupter, you know, I really do want to make sure that we have money for that.
To restate the budget, we have $114,000 in our account.
Yeah.
Not to minimize this amount of money, I think this is a significant sum. However, I would love to walk into something that doesn't feel like a hospital when we come back from this self-quarantine, and I would love to see that we actually pay homage to our communities that are changing, and actually share some of this history that I think some of us don't always know. So I definitely would be very supportive of this. I see another comment here. From my professional experience, the photo honorarium is a more than fair amount for that usage. I love the Trinidad mural too.
Yeah, and we have a few comments here.
Zach Hoffman, grants for violence interrupters should not be the single source of income, but a community supplement. Laura said, Nando is a very active in the Ward 5 community, donating time to the community, to our community, to work with you in workshops.
Yeah, okay. And then we have Josh Kramer with his hand raised here.
Go ahead.
Josh, if you'll unmute.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Yes. Kevin Horgan told me at one point that he thought it might be the case that the budget that we have for these grants, if it's not used before the next decennial census, that there's a chance that it might get rolled back into the general fund or kind of reallocated in some other way. Do any of you know how that works, or is there a chance that this $114,000 might just go away if we don't use it?
So yes, and what we really don't have $114,000 because we already allocated some of those funds. And so that's what's in our bank account right now, but it doesn't take into account the fact that we already allocated funds for other things.
So we are still above 80,000.
We're still above 80,000, and then we have to figure out what it is that we're paying for in terms of a violence interrupter salary, because we just voted on that at the beginning of the meeting to add a full-time salary position there without a dollar figure attached. So I like this project a lot. I'm just saying to us as a commission to be mindful of the fact that, we got to keep the dollar amounts on things in mind when we're doing them. And we just, for whatever reason, had a miscommunication about, what it was we were voting on in terms of violence interrupters. The $10,000 in gap funding is one thing, but a full-time salary and training is a different.
So there is a poll up. You put that poll up, Commissioner Moore?
Indeed, I did. No, I did.
Okay, Commissioner Linehan. So I'm going to ask the community. We got 46 people on right now. If you could see the poll, I would like to hear from the community through the poll.
Got 18 of 37 votes. Looks like we're all going towards yes.
18. Keep going. Is that everyone? I see 46 people.
21 of 37. Even if the rest of them voted now, it would not surpass the no's. So our constituents would like to see this implemented.
Okay. All right. I will second that motion of Commissioner Linehan.
Thank you.
So that motion, even though I didn't see the, when I go to the polls, I'm not seeing the results. Can you?
I have it on the shared screen. We have 25 of 37 with 22 people voting yes, 3 people voting no. It is overwhelmingly supported.
Yeah. I'm just as my final point of discussion, I'm a no, and I think we should not be a permanent no, but I think we should table, until we have a hold on.
We tabled last month.
We didn't table last month. It was a presentation last month and a voting item for this month.
So this is something we originally started discussing in January, back at the ANC room. We've all been very supportive of it when we're together, but it seems as soon as we want to vote on any kind of fiscal spending, it becomes a concern. I think it is more concerning that we have of the people that are in attendance, overwhelming support, and yet we're still hesitating.
Yeah. I mean, I understand that point, but I also think it's important that when we're voting on things to make sure that people are showing up to the meetings prepared. And so it's not necessarily Nando's fault in this instance, but we voted on a couple of things here and we don't have a firm grasp on what the dollar amounts are for things that we're spending on. And so it's a little bit.
But the dollar amount's clear on this.
Just to let me finish, his dollar amount is very clear. And that's why I said it's not his fault. But for the violence interrupter dollar amount, we're not being clear. We don't know how much that's going to cost. And so I think we've got a responsibility here to, with public money, be clear about what we're spending money on and make sure that we have enough money to spend on all of the things that we're putting aside money for. I don't think that's a huge ask, that, we keep track of those things.
Okay, well, yeah.
I don't think it's fair to Nando, but
it's definitely not fair to Nando.
He showed up prepared, but for whatever reasons, we as a commission were not all fully prepared.
For the other votes that we ended up supporting?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got a public question here.
Well, I'm going to hear from Commissioner Blacknell first. Commissioner Blacknell?
I couldn't hear you.
Okay. But I'm going to be with Commissioner Moore because we're getting ready to ask for another ballot for your area, Commissioner, and this Commissioner Moore said, we know how much it's going to cost. Now, I do like the back part of America, but maybe we can hold off on the small pictures? Because it seems like, I don't know how, but I'm gonna say it seems like you're trying to make choices whether the mayor or the ballot instructor.
Yeah, I can.
I can't understand.
Some of what you're saying.
But I think you need a ballot instructor in our city. And maybe we can do the back part of the office and maybe hold up on these 7 small pictures.
That's not a bad idea. I was going to suggest that. Again, this was something that I proposed last meeting when I was hoping to vote, to say, why don't we make this 2 separate projects, and rather not force an artist to do something he's never done, and maybe just trust that an artist can maybe do what they know best and not need so much direction. I definitely appreciate the patience in Nando. If we were to remove this sound paneling and it goes down to $4,500, does that then change your support, Commissioner Moore?
It does.
Okay. And Nando, is this something that you would be fine to drop the sound panels from your project?
So just to have the
the mural for $4,500, would that be something that you would be able to do? I did the math, 33 or 7,800 minus 3,300, 45.
Yeah, I can work with that.
Okay, we do have a couple of public comments, and we do have a public question.
Hi, yes. My name is Salvador Sosela Guzman. I reside in 5D02. And just listening to the conversation, I know this was something that began in January, but we all know the realities that certain situations have changed throughout the past couple months, and priorities might seem different. Witnessing some of the aggressive situations with police and residents of particularly Trinidad, my neighborhood, recently in the past 2 weeks, obviously shows interest in moving funds to certain projects over others. But just going back to the work that Mr. Alvarez has already been put into this project, I think it just going to the conversation that you guys were talking about, just tweaking this a little bit in terms of cost. I think it would be just good just to complete the project, even though it does seem a little worrisome that we might not even be able to see the art itself, just because we don't know what to expect from COVID going forward in terms of having meetings in that room. But I do think if the commission started this, we should have the commission complete it.
Thank you, Salvador. If it helps, if it is completed, I can always go to the ANC office and make that my backdrop instead. Just trying to work with everyone. Then I would like to make a motion to amend this project to remove the acoustic paneling, although stated and it is needed. That is something we can address at a later time. So I would like to make a motion to support this project at $4,500 to implement this mural by Nando Alvarez.
And I'll second the motion.
All
those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And then I just want to say that I'm fine with us coming back to the panel, but I just think we got to get a hold on the funding situation before we come back to the additional panels.
And that motion passes 4-0. Next item on the
Thank you, Nando. I appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody.
I'm excited to see what you do.
I'm excited. I will work on the sketch, and I will share with all the commissioners so they can have a clearer look of what it's going to look at the end before I actually hit the wall. So I will share with you kind of the steps that I'm going to take, how I'm going to move forward.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Have a good night.
Appreciate it.
All right. So I am going to, I've already promoted Anastasia Eby will be presenting for Ward 5 Mutual Aid. This is a request for grant. All right, Anastasia, I think you're muted still.
Hi, thank you for your time. My name's Anastasia. I live in Trinidad up on Holbrook Terrace. I've been volunteering with the Ward 5 Mutual Aid Group since late March. And we are happy to share information about what our group has been doing and is working on currently in our ward and in our 5D ANC area, and answer any questions and hopefully receive your support. So our mutual aid group started just in March as we became aware of the COVID-19 crisis and how dramatically that was going to impact our neighborhoods, especially due to people not being able to or not feeling safe leaving their homes and going to purchase food and essential supplies for themselves and their families. And so we built off of the work that other similar groups had been doing, both in the DC area, as well as other cities. And yeah, started initially very informally, and we've increasingly recruited more people and put in more structures to function efficiently and to meet people's needs. So our main project is operating a hotline. We have a phone number, a email address, and people also can send text messages to the phone number. And then we have volunteers who are answering every day, answering messages, calling people back, logging requests. Yes, you can see the flow chart here. So someone can call in, make a request, and then someone calls them back. We've been able to recruit more people. We have 24 people now helping with the hotline. So we're able to call people back usually within a day or two and do a full assessment of their situation. We verify where they live to make sure they're in our ward, or we refer them elsewhere if they need to go. And then we dispatch that request with a volunteer. We have over 200 volunteers across Ward 5 who have been doing runs for people, picking up groceries, cleaning supplies, sometimes more complicated things. But a lot of it is just hearing what people need, hearing what they can use, and trying to find someone who can help them fill that immediate essential need. We have written guidelines about preserving physical distancing, wearing masks, about screening people who are able to, who's able to go into stores or go to bring items to people making requests. And we're also, we also have a supply hub that has just gotten started in the last few weeks to pull people together, so that if people donate, especially like donate bulk, like cleaning supplies or some pantry items, we're able to go and get them there. We have a mask team. I saw Laura made a chat. We have people at work sewing, doing the fabric, like cutting and sewing fabric masks and distributing those as well. We've given out several hundred fabric masks in our community, and we're actually scaling that up fairly quickly to be able to distribute hundreds more as we go. We've gotten we've gotten lots of requests. We've gotten these numbers are a little bit old. I was looking it up today. We're getting close to 1,000 calls and requests coming in. In May, we were getting 9 or 10 on average every day of the week, including over the weekends. And let's see. Yeah, so our weekly expenses have been about $4,000 lately. We have some of our funding is the person going and buying the supplies is directly like paying for them themselves and not asking for a reimbursement. And we're just beginning to try to ask people to track those and to get that organized. But we've also set up several ways that people can donate to a central fund, so that reimbursements can go through that fund. And we have several people who are trained and screened to administer the money and who make sure that they're checking receipts and matching that back to the requests. And they're reporting publicly what we're doing with all of the funds that come in. Let's see, we have our website on the Open Collective. Is there a link to that in this document? I'm not actually sure. That our website where you can make a donation has information about our mission statements and our activities, as well as a way to get involved if folks want to volunteer and be part of the organization. We have people involved who do all sorts of tasks and jobs, from going and picking up the requests to, like myself, running hotline and dispatch from the safety of my home, to doing the masks, to working on fundraising and outreach with other community organizations. We also have we've compiled a fairly long document of resources that we're continually updating and sharing, so that when people call in with questions or looking for services, we can first try to determine what they're already connected to and provide them information. We know that the way that different nonprofits and DC government have been responding to this crisis has been evolving rapidly. And many of the neighbors we're working with either don't have the internet or have less of an ability to connect and figure out what's going on. So a lot of what we're doing is providing them with information as well about where they can pick up groceries, or how they can get delivery, or help with things like rent, with utilities, with supplies for children, diapers, education. We have a pretty long list of resources, and there's often been folks who make a request who get connected with a volunteer who can try to talk them through and help them do research online or through making phone calls to relevant organizations to help them out. But like I said, the bulk of what we're doing, and certainly the bulk of the money that we're spending, is going directly to purchasing supplies, to purchasing groceries, cleaning supplies, bleach, protective equipment, and giving that out into our community. So yeah, we know that our mutual aid group is working over the entire ward, but the neighborhoods in our area have about the highest number of requests, proportion of requests, especially Trinidad and Carver Langston are both getting over a third of the requests for the entire ward are coming in like right here. And so this is a really important place to provide support and to provide funding. Yeah, and so we're also if we have funding for it, we'd like to make some improvements to our supply hub. We'd like to have a refrigerator there. I think the freezer might need some repair, so that we're able to process especially more fresh food. We've had volunteers who are able to connect with some other nonprofits or some of the food producers, some of the farmers and the food distribution in the area. And if we had a place to do more perishable food, we'd be able to get that out more rapidly as well. That we have been working to do some like boxes of produce delivery. So that's the basics of what we're doing. Trying to see if we have several people here who joined from the mutual aid group who could chime in if there's something important I'm missing. I can put the link to our website, to the fundraising website, like I said, on the chat, if that'd be helpful. I also have I have more of the detailed information. We weren't really sure what level of detail to get into with this grant proposal, about some of the numbers of the requests we've been getting, or where we've been spending money, or where we have volunteers. We have a map that shows where our volunteers are distributed. Oh, sorry, I was just looking at the chat.
And Anastasia, you went to you guys went out there to the Days Inn on New York Avenue. Is that correct?
Yes, I haven't myself, but I know we've been getting quite a few requests and calls from the Days Inn transitional shelter.
Yes, so I very much appreciate that. I know that is very much underserved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, something we've been doing there. I mean, we've been helping with food, and cleaning supplies has been really important. We've also been helping, trying to support the residents there who are interested in doing more advocacy or community organizing, but like amongst themselves to figure out how they can access services and get their needs met. We've also been doing things like posting to area listservs or Facebook groups to find like baby supplies, clothing, cribs, diapers, things like that we can get donated. We've gotten probably thousands of materials donated and been able to drive those and deliver them directly to folks, both in the Days Inn and in other areas in Ward 5. We've also done we've done some support helping people just pay for an Uber, like paying directly for rideshare to get people to a doctor's appointment when they've been unable to or have restrictions that they haven't been able to use public transportation. So we've been it's been a really interesting process. Our mission has been to just be neighbors helping neighbors informally. We don't have a formal nonprofit or organization structure, but we've tried to just take requests as they come and see what we can do to meet those requests. We've also set up a team, I should add, of Spanish language speakers who are doing translation and who are fulfilling requests, doing the hotline in Spanish, and meeting those needs as well. And we haven't had requests, but we've been being prepared and getting resources about supporting folks who speak other languages as well.
I have a question, Anastasia. Have you received any funds from any other ANC, like ANC 5C?
We have not to Ward 5, as far as I know. I feel like one of the other wards we were talking to, some of the organizers have received some funding from another ANC. I know we put in requests. We've been trying just in the last few weeks to reach out and to build relationships and put in requests for all of the Ward 5 ANCs.
And do you know about how many 5D constituents you have served throughout this COVID pandemic?
Yeah, so we weren't, when this group got started, there wasn't a lot of records being kept. It was kind of emergency, informal response. So the first few hundred don't have super great records. I updated it. We have 170 requests that I can track right now that have come from 5D, and there are several hundred that don't have addresses linked to them in our records. So given that about a third were coming in, there's going to be definitely more in Trinidad as well.
And do you have the numbers for all of Ward 5?
For all of Ward 5, we've gotten over 950 requests.
And so you're now tracking the spending and?
Sorry, you said, are
you now tracking spending with where funds are I guess going? Because I guess if we were to support this, we need to make sure that ANC 5D is being served first and foremost.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, we are tracking right now. We're tracking every request that comes in. For months now has gotten a unique number, so we're able to keep track throughout the chain of communication, and that's tied that we record their address. We're asking the number of people in the household, and we're verifying what neighborhood they live in, and then as the request gets reimbursed, we've since April, since we started the collective funds, we've kept track of every reimbursement, how much that was, and which request number it was tied to, and we've verified the receipts for that and kept records of it. And so we'd be able to track it back to the the individual ANC. We already did that. We wasn't doing the ANC, but what was it called? Like the Bloomingdale Village. There's a community association, neighborhood association in Ward 5, north of us in Ward 5, that provided money only for like senior citizens in their area that covered several neighborhoods. And so it was, of course, it was more paperwork. We are all volunteers, and so every source of restricted funding means we have to kind of develop a means to track it and a means to keep track of everything and report on it clearly. But we're definitely happy to hear the process that you all need and to work with you to make that happen.
Yeah, so I just want to say thank you for sharing this. I've seen where this has been set up in a lot of wards in the city. I think it's a good idea. This is my first time actually seeing, the proposal from you guys. So I just wasn't aware of it prior to tonight's meeting, which was some of my, conversation at the beginning of the meeting about, making sure we have, especially for grant proposals, information in advance. But it looks like you guys are requesting $10,000. And is that specifically to fund the cost of purchases for food and diapers? Or is that, if you need particular services as well, like transportation and things?
Mm-hmm. We wrote the request to be kind of as broad as possible to describe some of the different services we were doing. Most of our funding is going directly to groceries or direct supplies. So that would certainly be possible if it made more sense to have it restricted more narrowly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just asking that. The other thing that strikes me is that some of the grant law around ANC funding has changed. And so it used to be previously, even when we approved our previous grant for face shields, you know, we had to be very specific about where they were going to go within 5D in particular. But a lot of that's been lifted, and the specific example given behind that were mutual aid societies like this one. So this is something that I definitely, you know, I think it makes a lot of sense. You know, I support it and just want to have an opportunity to, you know, actually read, you know, what you guys have requested here. But I think it's a good idea, and I would definitely support, you know, moving forward with a grant on that.
And I just have a question. You said you have a location. Are you trying to purchase, you have a location where you store food?
We do, yes. That's a kind of recent development. But we have a location up in Brooklyn that's been donated the use of a storefront. So we've been storing some non-perishables, and also that's where, like, when people make masks, they've been dropping off a batch of them there, and we've been able to, you know, receive some donations there. But yeah, we're trying to get things out as quickly as possible. We don't want to have like a big stockpile that we are managing or dealing with.
Is this something that we're able to vote on, or is this something that we're gonna need to table? Or I just hate to, just with the.
Sure, I think that is probably from a question for me, I'm guessing. And I think this is part of the discussion about tabling the last item, because if we know that this is on the agenda, and I'm guessing we're probably spending about 80K this meeting, I think that I'd be much more interested in funding the full, you know, $10,000 on this for supplies, you know, and making sure that that money is there when it's time to pay them. So I think maybe the way to set this up, because, you know, I haven't seen this before the meeting. I think maybe the way to set this up is the same way we set up the one with the church, so that we're saying up to this amount is available. And then if you could submit receipts for reimbursement. You know, typically with grants, we do it the other way around, but I just think, you know I personally haven't read it. I don't know if the other commissioners have had an opportunity to read it.
I did read.
Commissioner Blacknell, did you?
It's the first time I saw it.
Can somebody interpret that for me?
She said it's the first time she saw it. Is that correct? Can you give me a thumbs up if I heard that right?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I was just checking. I think we all got this yesterday at 11:50 a.m.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
little short notice. But again, as I mentioned earlier, I hate to put a price on food right now with so many of our neighbors in need. So however we need to frame this to support this, to make sure that we are maybe protecting this spending. But yeah, Anastasia, would this be something that you all would be able to accommodate by providing us receipts to see exactly, I guess, expenses that are going to 5D, although that has been lifted? It's just, would you be able to provide these receipts so that we can provide this funding once we have that?
Well, and I also would like to see be a focus in 5D, and
of course, yeah.
I would like us to partner. I would like to see other support for other ANCs in the Northeast area.
Yeah. Agreed.
So I mean, I think it's 5C, because even though I know our residents, the Days Inn is not in our ANC, and I would like to see if they providing also support, because it looks like this, and because you're not limiting your support to only people in Ward 5, are you?
We actually are for our group. We have all the phone numbers and contact for the other wards, or for Maryland or Virginia, and so we've referred quite a few people to the correct ward if they're calling us.
Okay. And you're doing this, where's the call center?
The call center is just remote. We have a Google phone number, and so several people can log in and access it.
Okay.
And just want to point out, we're at 9:12, and we have a question from the public.
Okay, go ahead.
We've got Michael Perkins. Are there rules that these items need to be submitted X number of hours in advance to be considered on the agenda? And yes, we're really supposed to, for the most part, give the community 7 days notice, on agenda items. There are some instances where we will, vote to add something to the agenda that's time sensitive. I think there's a case to be made here potentially that this is time sensitive because this is our last regularly scheduled meeting before the summer recess. But we do also have the option if we need to, which I think in the times we're in, probably should really strongly consider, having a special meeting so that, we can address these things as they come up when we need to. But yeah, it is typically 7 days in advance.
And that's also what I was stating, that I was, discuss it. Well, we would discuss it before the end of this meeting, but I don't know what the other question. I do feel that we probably should meet in July.
Yeah.
And that's.
I agree too. Yeah.
Especially since we're Zooming the meetings, and that makes it available wherever our locations are.
Yeah.
So since that's the sense that I'm getting from Commissioner Blacknell, are you for a July meeting, just on a consensus? I hear a chuckle.
I mean, if we have to have one, I try, but my job situation.
So I heard if we have to have one, I'll try. But sometimes there's an issue with my job situation.
Yes. And also,
right.
And also to get Commissioner Motley in. I didn't hear from him this evening. And it helps the Ward 5 Mutual Aid to develop more. I see that this is a work in progress. You got a store location. Like to see one in Ivy City in one of the stores there. Always like to see stuff in Ward 5 and our ANC. I always would like to see that something that's that makes it more accessible to people right here in 5D.
So it's my understanding that you deliver this directly to somebody's door.
Yeah, that's
so it can't be more accessible than that. I mean,
giving things out to the supply hub. That's for volunteers to pick up things and bring them out. And yeah, Laura's doing masks.
Well, one of the things when I say accessible, the more people who don't have the internet, that part of our constituency, who are probably not aware of that you provide these services. And that's one of the things that, because you mentioned listservs, but just a lot of folks in our community aren't using the listserv. So they don't know that you're available. And that's
to get the word out more now that, especially if we have more funding and more capacity. We have done some flyering in our ANC as well as elsewhere in the ward. And there's a lot of word of mouth as well. We'll find that we'll get one call from an apartment building or a housing complex, and then we'll get like dozens more will follow pretty quickly once people see that we can deliver and bring them groceries, bring them something.
And that is true, and that's usually how that does work, more word of mouth than that kind of getting the word out. I'm just Commissioner Linehan.
I mean, again, as I mentioned, I hate putting a price on food when there is obviously a need now. We do not have a July meeting set, although I'm fine either way. I just do not want to see this tabled, especially when I see a grant presented in this fashion versus how we've already passed one with the request from the church that you attend. So, I mean, if we're going to support that kind of grant request and you're saying this is being put together, I think that we need to reevaluate exactly what's being put together.
Okay, Mr. Linehan. That's why I abstained on that vote.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that, and this is for me, I felt the same way about both, to be honest, because it's like I want to see things before the meeting because, I think the thing that folks out there don't realize when they see the dollar amount that we have available at the beginning of the meeting is that it's like your checkbook. We have some checks that have gone out that haven't been cashed yet. And so we have to have an awareness about, all of the money and then making sure that we're prioritizing the things we need to prioritize because some of the money we've allocated but have not spent yet.
So as I feel chastised by Commissioner Linhan, even though I did abstain on that vote.
I'd like to make a motion to support this request. If this is going to be something that is going to be tabled, I mean, are we? Or actually, let's just say I'd like to make a motion to support this request in the exact same fashion that we supported the previous request for the grant that was requested by the New Samaritan Baptist Church.
Okay, so in all fairness, I'll say with Commissioner Moore using the same dollar amount of $6,000 to be allocated as we receive the receipts.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that.
Commissioner Blacknell?
I'm comfortable with, but in their future, we stick with the 7-day rule. Now, as far as your church is concerned, we discussed this last month.
Yeah.
Okay.
We did.
Yeah,
it wasn't. Yeah, we did.
I'm along with this grant.
Yeah. That, I mean, I think that's a good, so Commissioner Blacknell's comment was that the difference between the two grants here for us as commissioners is we were aware that one was coming, you know, from the church. We were aware of that dollar amount and had discussed that, but for most of us were not aware of this one. And that's not, and that's my whole thing here. It's not to short shrift you as the presenter. You know, you guys are doing great work. I definitely am in support of what you're doing, but I just think we have to, you know, we also have to be good stewards of the money. And it's not that we want to be harsh on people. It's just that we want to make sure that we have the money to do all the things we told people we were going to do, and not have people, you know, expecting a check from us that they can't get. So we don't want to start allocating next year's funds when we're not necessarily sure what that set amount's going to be yet as well. So just background for the folks. We do have, just really quickly here, because we're running a little bit short on time at 9:19.
So the motion, let's make the motion that we will allocate the funds. So Anastasia, it doesn't mean you're going to get the whole 6,000, but that's what it's going to be capped at as we receive your receipts. And it's called this selfish, but if it's a 5D address, I really would be happy when I see that receipt.
I'll second that too.
So that would that'll carry a lot of weight with me when I see the request if it's 5D.
And just for you guys' awareness, typically as part of the grant process, we have people come back later and say, you know, this is what happened with the funds, and give us an update as
And when I say 5D, I really like to see the extra focus on Carver Langston and Ivy City. That's what I really could, especially since you're delivering, because someone spoke earlier that they couldn't get down to maybe New Samaritan because of transportation. Someone spoke earlier about that. So since you provided direct delivery, that would be really where I would like to see any of your services go for those seniors there. Also on Blainsburg Road, we have a senior building, now that I think about it, but those, I guess we could provide you those addresses too to reach out to those individuals.
Yeah, we're welcome to send that. We also know that folks have been getting referred from council members and from DC government to our hotline already. Is there, just to clarify, since we're new to this, is there one of the commissioners we should be reaching out to about like what exactly you need, what form or level of detail?
Yeah, we don't have a full-on grants committee yet, but I'm the chair of the grants committee. So I'm aware of a lot of the legal requirements around, you know, how we issue grants. You know, our commission in the past hasn't always done a great job with issuing funds, you know, so this is our first year doing it. But we want to make sure that, you know, if we say you're going to get a set amount, that you get it, or at least we have those funds available. Yeah, but I think the main thing to do is if you want to just send anything to the 5D group overall, the email address is 5d@anc.dc.gov. Yeah.
Right. So that motion I'm going to propose a motion that we support the Ward 5 mutual aid and allocating funds as we receive receipts for spending and for reimbursement. Is there a second?
Up to $6,000.
Up to $6,000.
I
Do I have, and a second by Commissioner Linhan? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Linhan and Commissioner Lee also affirm. That passes 4-0. Commissioner Linhan, you're next again.
Yes, so I know this was, I pushed this again for time sensitivity to actually, here, let me pull this up, to defund MPD and reallocate that funding to invest in our communities. This is, again, is hyperlinked into our agenda, and this will not be voted on. But I would like to see a resolution passed to see that we do not allow for an increase of around $18.7 million in the budget increase for MPD, as their budget already is at $560 million. When I say defund, I'm not saying to remove any funding that is currently already supported. I am just going to say that I do not support having the mayor's proposed $18.7 million for the next year's budget. And given this is a discussion, I would like to open this up for questions and other comments to see how everyone is exactly feeling about this. I know that this is something that I'm sure everyone has seen on the news and also in the mural that was an addition. But wanted to kind of see how our constituents are feeling and see if this would be something that would be supported by our neighbors.
Yeah, I mean, I have a comment as a commissioner just to kind of start out. So this wasn't something that was previously on our schedule. And so this is something that I saw probably the first time me interacting with the document was about 2 a.m. this morning. So I think my concern here is not about us issuing budget feedback. It's about the way in which we're doing it. Because I think a lot of people don't realize this. It's not just that we as ANCs advise and then are therefore given great weight on the advice that we give. It's that we have to lay out a rationale in our documents for why we're giving the advice that we're giving in order to be given great weight so that the council has to respond to the advice that we're giving. And, right now the document, as I read it, and I know there's been some ongoing edits, is that it's structured in such a way that it talks a lot about the emotional things that are obviously going on. I mean, as you can see from the video, I'm Black. I've been Black since the 80s. So racism and topics around race are not a new topic for me. Issues around having violence interrupter services have been something that we've been talking about in this community even before I was a commissioner for a long time. Part of the reason we have some of the pilot programs that we do have in this neighborhood is because I've worked with a lot of neighbors to make sure that we were selected to be the pilot communities. And I feel like the consultation on this needs some improvement. Because I don't think we're meeting the standards that we need to meet in order to require a response from the council. And I don't want to put together something that, on an issue that I care a lot about, where we've worked really hard on this as a community for years and benefited from a lot of these changes, to have us put together a document that makes people feel good and then doesn't really result in us getting the kind of change or feedback or set us up for making the best case for ourselves on the budget changes that we want to see. And so I think, the idea is something that I support. It's just the document itself for me, it needs work.
And Commissioner Lee, Commissioner Blacknell?
Well,
I haven't seen documents. So, if we have next month, we can discuss it next month. But it's just
we can't even tell what you're saying right now, Commissioner Blacknell.
Commissioner Blacknell, try talking now. I cut off your video to see if the bandwidth would be saved so that maybe your audio would come through.
I said,
excellent.
I haven't seen it yet, and this is a very sensitive situation, and I think we should maybe discuss this next month at our ANC meeting, because if we had to vote on this tonight, I would vote no. I would vote no.
Well, given that, I would support it based on just my own personal feelings. This is a feeling thing for me. Having a son that's 27 years old, and I fear, this is one of my fears as a father, every time he goes out, that and living in Trinidad, and he's lived here all his life. So that is one of the things that that's why I would support it. And for me, it's all emotional, without any reason, just the reason that I don't want to see, and I've seen just the activities that was happening on Mile River Road last week. I don't know what precipitated the police pulling the young man out of the car, but that's is something that I think if it's not emotional, and I really don't, should I say that I really don't think that our council, whether we can support it or not, our commissioners or our mayor, I think we would do it. Would it change our mind? No. Even if we had valid excuses, I don't think it would change our mind. But I just think that at this point, I could just take a stand with supporting the resolution strictly on an emotional basis, not even just the way I feel. Something has to be done.
Have you read the resolution?
I partially read it, yes.
Yeah. I think,
but I'm saying
I get it. I get what you're saying, and you know, I walk around every day, but I just think that here we are, we're voting on something that most of us haven't read, and we're saying we didn't even read our own resolution, but DC City Council, we're gonna ask you to respond to this resolution and take it seriously as our advice to you as the council on your budget. When we didn't work together on the resolution, most of us are African American. This is an issue I've been working on for a long time, and you know, wasn't really consulted on it until the last minute. And it just, I think it does us a bit of a disservice in sort of being taken seriously on a serious issue if you know, if we're not doing our part of things. And I think that it's important to me, and I feel like we're giving it short shrift because people's lives are at stake. And I think that we could at least take the time and energy to read the things that we're putting out before we put them out, and make sure that we're collaborating in a way that puts the best case forward so people understand the issues that are at play here and what we're voting on.
And just with the consensus, since it would not pass with a majority, only for that reason I would table it, because Commissioner Blacknell has already expressed her concern.
I mean, my request isn't, and just to be clear, isn't that we table until next month. You know, the timeline on this is that, you know, the beginning of July is when you have MPD's hearing. I think it's on the 7th. You know, that's when their public hearing is on their budget. You know, they already had the performance hearings, and now this is the budget hearings. And I think that if we even took, I mean, give people more than a day to read it and give feedback and say, okay, you know, we're required to give the public 7 days notice on things, you know, when we're having a special meeting. And I think this is something that's definitely a life or death situation, and worthy of the time to read it and worthy of the time to put together a special meeting on it.
I mean, I agree with Commissioner Moore. Just like I said, I haven't even had a chance to read it. So I'm not going to vote on something that I haven't read. And as Commissioner of Whole, I feel we all need to get together to read it.
And that's why, so we're saying twice that we're going to need to meet in July or have a special meeting before the end So let's table it for a special meeting.
That's why I said, that's why I said, I can't vote on something that I haven't read.
And
yeah, so I thought that there was a hearing regarding the fiscal year 2021 budget this week, which is why I wanted to see that we had this on our agenda. I thought this was an urgent issue. Obviously, I want everyone to be supportive of this. I did put up a poll just to see how everyone felt about this. Of course, I would ask you all to read this before supporting it, but it does seem that it is supported by the, I guess we have a few more votes coming in, but only one person has voted no, not to support this. Again, I am not trying to take away from what is already in their budget. I am just trying to make sure they're not getting more. I'm guessing we can all agree that the police, it's the many bad actors, and this is a systemic problem. I don't think we should be rewarding them with more money when we have many needs in our communities that are being unmet. I think we've all spoke to the lack of resources we're getting. We're watching the mayor completely cut the budget for violence interrupters, which is why we are going to support this. That is mentioned in this resolution here. But again, I want this to be something where we were setting a precedent for ANCs in hopes that we could actually get a movement behind this and put a little pressure on the council. Whether I think that is going to make a difference, I don't know. I know where the mayor's priorities seem to be, so I can't say it's going to make a big difference, but I at least I still stand by what I wrote, and I would say that this is fundamentally what I would like to see move forward. Again, I would like to see everyone be on the same page too.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to make it clear for people that, it's not a matter of not supporting the idea. It's just a simple fact that, I've been a Black woman my whole life, my entire adult life. I've been working around these issues, and I wasn't really consulted in a meaningful way. And that bothers me. And I think that as a commission, if we're going to vote to support things and we want people to take it seriously, then we have to take it seriously
as a commission.
Yeah.
As a commission.
And because, and as you said that, Commissioner Moore, like I say, living in Trinidad now for the past 31 years. And prior to that, as I came to the neighborhood to date, so I've been here since 1984. All of my interactions with the police have not been good in Trinidad. From knocking on my door, stating that somebody trying to serve a warrant at my door because somebody just gave my address. The roadblock situation when they blocked off the roads where we had to show our ID to come into the city, to come into our neighborhood, and I had to show our ID to get to my driveway. So, and even the last incident when I watched after the shooting, a young officer just pace up and down the alley with the long gun after all the rest of the officers were social distancing and chit-chatting and just patrolling the alley with a long gun like he was ready to engage somebody. So, and those are my own experiences as well as, my fear for my son. And that's the thing. And regardless of, my tags do not say ANC. So I have been interacting and, I explained to him who I am and that I live here. And I guess I'm known somewhat now more, but this is troubling.
Yeah.
This is just troubling. And do I think I'm ready to support it. I just read it. I still, I finished reading it, and there's nothing here that I would not agree with.
Mm-hmm. I just think there's additional things that should be there that aren't. There's a lot of study that goes into the policy reforms that people are requesting around these issues. And it isn't just emotion, and it isn't just, well, we've seen a lot of bad things going on, and this is an opportunity to smack the police down. There's a huge body of research that goes into why we're doing specific policy prescriptions that we're doing. There are things specific to DC that are unique. that we should be addressing. You know, for cities similar in size to DC, we are over policed in a major way in terms of just the number of police that we have on the street. You know, 55 police to every 10,000 residents for a city like ours is a lot. And that's not even including that you have other police forces like Park Police and Capitol Police and all these other, you know, police jurisdictions that are out there. And I think that, you know, our community is very much impacted by a lot of these issues. And, you know, it would be good for us to make the absolute best case possible for why we want what we want, because you had better believe that the people on the other side of this argument have their rationales in place as to why they want to do what they want to do. And it's not just feelings. You know, if anyone has feelings, you know, I have feelings. But I think if we're going to make a case for why you should change the budget, you know, we need to make that case. And just to some of the questions I've seen here, I just want people to be aware that some of the dates changed around the budget, you know, and when those hearings are, just for the simple fact that the mayor's budget came in late because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And so that's why we're even having this conversation as late in the year as we are.
So I did want to touch on just a couple things. I know you said a lot there, Sadell, and I very much agree with you. We do have the 6th largest police force and the 20th largest city in the country. So yeah, that doesn't add up. Like you said, this research has been there. There's great bodies of work that have always supported the disparity and the inequalities in this country, but yet we continuously watch governments fund their police force. That is what I am trying to make sure that we don't do next year. And we are during budget season right now. So I felt this was urgent. I also know that whenever we went out to the protest last Thursday, we discussed this. And it was a rough discussion at that time. And this was something that circulated with all ANCs. I think you were included on that email as well, where the guts of this actually came from. So it wasn't just something that I personally wrote and didn't get any support from. I called each one of you personally. Commissioner Blacknell, you too. I didn't get an answer from you. I did speak with Commissioner Motley in regards to this. So I did not try to shoulder this myself, and by all means would never want to do that. I just want to make sure that we are making a stance for what is right. I truly believe that this is right. I think we live in a system that is defined by systemic racism and white supremacy. So I would like to dismantle that and make sure we are working towards progress.
And I agree, and we did have that discussion. And I think some of my commentary at that time was that I thought that language was also poor, you know, as it was drafted at that time. And so I think, you know, I agree with the idea. I think you're right on making sure that we keep up with the momentum and address things now. I just think if the thing is worth doing, it's worth doing right.
So I know I saw the resolution. I know that you had mentioned I had shared this with you late last night, and we were working on that until about 3 a.m. I decided to move forward with this because I think fundamentally what you had edited and changed it to was just an entirely different resolution. And like I had mentioned, I was supportive of your resolution as you had written it, but I did not want to see this gutted. I really want it to be bold. I want strong language. I want MPD to feel that we are angry and things should not continue as they have. We should not be watching more budgeting allocations go towards the bad actors time after time.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with that. And I think both resolutions are worthy of a conversation, but I think that that's what the special meeting should be for. And I think that's what I shared prior to the meeting. And I think that that's the direction we should move in at this point.
I will support that. Let's table this for the next meeting.
Let's table this item since it will not pass. Requested presentations. We have the Office of the People Council. Are they available?
If you're on the line for the Office of the People's Council, and you can raise your hand, if you can use the raise hand function, or let us know you're here in the chat box, the Q&A box.
Do you see them?
No.
Okay, let's move on to Alexandra Davis. I see he's here. Mr. Davis? Did you raise him to the panel? Okay, there he is.
I'm here. How are you all doing tonight?
All right.
I am going to be brief. I know there are more pressing issues for your community, so I will share my screen if I'm allowed to. Give me one moment as I do so, okay?
Commissioner Moore, did you move him?
I can't do that. Commissioner Lyon has to do that.
Commissioner Lyon. Oh.
I'm sorry. What am I needing to do right now? I was just
move Mr. Davis to he wants to share a screen, so a panelist, right? Moving up to panelist.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and I'm unable to share. They said I've been disabled for doing so, and it's
activate as a co-host. It has to be elevated to co-host.
Yes.
all right.
Thank you.
And if it's, I don't mind just speaking on it. I don't have to necessarily present from the PowerPoint that I prepared.
You should have access to share now.
Okay. Thank you. All right, is everybody able to see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, excellent. All right, so my name is Alex Davis. I am with Spin. We are the orange and white e-scooter company that operates here in DC. The reason I am presenting to you tonight is because Spin has engaged in the DC community for a little over a year now, and we are working to really sync and be in lockstep with the various community associations that represent the residents of their specific regions. And so what I hope to do with this presentation today is give you a summary explanation of what SPIN is about, the programs that we have set up for the communities and the residents, but also to dispel any preconceived notions individuals have in regards to micromobility, e-scooters, or multimodal transit. So SPIN's mission is giving people the freedom to move. And what we want to do in various communities in DC specifically is give the residents of the community the opportunity to connect to the key urban resources that they need to essentially have that freedom to move. And that is why we're having this presentation today, just to give you all a better understanding of what we're about and exactly how we can establish that connection and cultivate a partnership. So there is a solid relationship, and we are being an addition to the community versus a subtraction. So as I said earlier, Spin has been operating in DC for a little over a year now. We have a fleet of around 720 scooters within the region. We are operating 24 hours a day, and the general cost of our scooters is around 29 cents per minute. So programming that we have established, some of the core tenant programs that we have to assist the members of the community is one, our Spin Access program. So our Spin Access program provides free 30-minute rides to individuals of DC who are in benefits program, whether it is with food stamps or benefits programs like TANF, temporary assistance in needy families. They are able to receive free 30-minute rides. We also have the option for individuals that are unbanked, individuals that are not smartphone users, to have that opportunity to access our scooter. So in the event that, let's say, for instance, there is an individual that is unbanked that has to work maybe a second or third shift late at night, and the bus line that they usually utilize is not running as efficiently as they would like it to, they could use the Spin scooter to complete the trip. if there is an individual that has been affected, and there hasn't been any individual that hasn't been affected by COVID by DC, the WMATA Transit has shifted around how much of their buses operate to kind of fill the need in busier corridors. So in the event that that occurs, once again, we strategically place our scooters so residents are able to utilize that spin scooter to finish up that secondary half of their trip, or complete short trips and prevent themselves from being late, or having just a common source of transportation to get them from point A to point B. In times of COVID, we have also established the Everyday Heroes program, where we are giving discounts to frontline workers that are in the hospital industry. So hospital industry workers are able to get free 30-minute rides for healthcare providers. So whether you are a doctor that is anesthesiologist, a nurse, or a simple maintenance worker within the healthcare industry, you are able to get that free 30-minute ride and a helmet. The program has been extended to June 30th. So if anybody is interested here, I have the link posted below. I will be sharing it with Commissioner Clarence once this is all said and done. And then finally, we have the Spin Streets program, which essentially is us working to make the streets more safe, livable, and just and open for everyone. We work with community residents and associations and government entities to ensure that this is completed. We're currently working on a project with DDOT to help remedy dangerous intersections in Ward 7 and 8. So touching on staying safe within times of COVID, I know many of you are wondering why we're operating during the time. One, it's to make sure that we're filling the gap. As I said, there are various shifts within WMATA Transit, and we wanted to be available and provide ourselves to the communities that need us. But in doing so, we've ensured that all of our operators, people that are handling our scooters, are adhering to CDC guidelines, using PPE equipment, making sure that the scooters are cleaned thoroughly from the time they exit our warehouses to the time they hit our streets to the time that they're coming back. We make sure that we are taking rigorous precautions to make sure that the scooters are clean, and that also our users are knowledgeable about how to go about making sure that they're adhering to safe practices that are instilled by city governors, so city governments. One, we're ensuring that making essential rides the one case that the reason why you're riding spin scooters, ensuring that individuals are wearing a cloth mask at all time, ensuring that people are riding solo, and then making sure that people are washing hands before and after riding. We make sure that within our app, once individuals are getting ready to start a ride, that information is made available and it's made clear. So speaking on Spin Safe, speaking on how we are ensuring that one, if people are utilizing our scooters, what are the standards? A lot of times people's experience with scooters might be negative. One, because scooters are parked in pedestrian right-of-way areas. They are littered and put in areas where people are more than likely using that space. So one thing that we do, we have rider education, and it has shifted over a little bit in times of COVID, but we are establishing rider education safety webinars where we are educating communities, community associations about proper rider education, what it is to ride a spin scooter, what are the requirements, what are the best practices that we are instilling. So people are clear. Some of those requirements and best practices are one, wearing a helmet at all time. We are rigorously checking for individuals that are 18 and older. If you're 18 and younger, you should not be riding a spin scooter. And then above all else, making sure that our riders are courteous, making sure that they're targeting corrals and bike lanes and designated drop zones as a space to drop off their scooters once they are completing a ride. And in the event that individuals are seeing otherwise, we have a spin support team that is mostly hired from within the DC region, and we are looking to be as responsive as possible to each of our community's needs. So if you see a problem, we strongly recommend that you reach out. And then finally, one thing that we would like to do within this process is use both quantitative and qualitative data to determine optimal areas of deployment, specifically qualitative data. One thing that we are in the process of developing is a mapping tool that can be learned and shared with ANC commissioners like yourself, so you can get a general sense of the best and optimal areas in which we can place our scooters. We work hand in with our operations team. I am the liaison, so I essentially am. I go to these meetings. I have other interventions that may be necessary and get a general sense of what are the best spaces to place scooters. And in the event community organizations are interested in hubs, or they are interested in specific zones in spacing or placing their scooters, I am the individual that is sort of involved in those conversations. And as I said earlier, we are trying to do our best that we are cultivating the right relationship with communities, and we're in lockstep and are not detracting away from sort of the natural resources and being an addition. So with that being said, that is the end of my presentation. If anyone has any questions for me, I'm happy to take any feedback or questions.
It was. Commissioners, did you see the chat questions?
Yes. So we have one question from Brooke Patricia Herzog. If spin is, or a comment question, if spin is looking to increase accessibility, they should look at where they are doing their drops. I live in Langston and have seen one scooter here ever since moving in early this year.
Oh, okay. So in regards to the drops, what we ensure is that in working with DDOT, we signed a contract at the beginning of our operations. And as far as operations are working right now, they target specific zones, and that's based off simple quantitative data. So they may be saying the quantitative data may be saying, one, there are a X amount of scooters that need to be dropped here versus this area. And as you all know, sometimes quantitative data is not to have the final say. So thank you so much for sharing that with me. I'll share that with operations. And as we are developing that mapping tool, we'll very much teach it to, as I said, residents, ANC commissioners, anybody that's involved with community associations, so people can designate optimal areas. And so there's not just one scooter there. There's maybe around 5 to 6 scooters that you can utilize versus just one.
Yeah. So that's the only question I see from the public on this topic. And we're, just to keep you on time here, we're about 5 minutes to 10.
So thank you, Mr. Davis, for your presentation. And you just stated you will send me a little update when you have it, correct?
Absolutely. I will send you a copy of this PowerPoint presentation. It has all the links. Feel free to share it with your fellow commissioners and also with your constituents within 5D.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Commissioner Linhan, do you have Anna Frazier? Do you? I see her now. From 1121 Moore Street Northeast.
I do see we have a quick comment or question from Brandon Jackson.
You do see?
Brandon, you're able to talk?
Yes, I'm actually a part of, I'm the owner at 1121 Morris.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Well, go ahead.
He's with this group that's presenting now.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
so I'm to start the presentation. Yes.
Okay. Is it possible to share my screen?
I just wanted to step in where it says Anna Fraser. It's obviously not. It's Greg. My name's Gregory Curley. I'm the architect for the project. Anna Fraser's part of the real estate attorney group, but she's not with us tonight.
Did I get the spelling correctly or correct there?
No, it's Kearley.
I will just go by Gregory then.
That's
Sorry.
perfect.
Okay, we got everyone. Go ahead, Mr. Jackson.
Okay, yes. So I own the house at 1121 Morris Street. And we're looking for relief from the 10-foot rule for a special exception for BZA. I don't know if you all remember, we actually presented at the last ANC meeting as well.
Yes.
I'm just gonna give you guys just a quick overview again. I'll try to keep it quick. Here's the 1121, 1119 over here, 1123, 1125. As you all know, 1123, 1125, those are 3-unit condo buildings that sit next to our property that have a 50-foot extension in the back, in the rear, where you can see from this rear view here. So what we are proposing—
We're not seeing the screen.
I don't see the screen.
Oh, you can't see it?
But I'm looking at it online.
Wanted Mr. Jackson to co-host. He needs to be a co-host to share. Yeah.
Could you make both of us co-host? Because I would probably share a couple things as well.
Okay, so
you're both co-hosts now.
Okay.
Okay.
So
there we go.
Is that working now? Okay. Yes. Sorry about that. So this is a property right here, 1121, which sits next to 1123, 1125. I know many of you probably know these are 3-unit condo buildings that had a 50-foot extension in the rear, which you can see here. Here's where my property is right here. Then here's the one next to it, which was a huge extension in the rear. I know that hasn't gone over the best in this community, but we've been trying to work to figure out something that's more amenable to everybody in the neighborhood. So what we came up with was doing a 32-foot extension on the bottom. So the bottom unit would be a 1-bedroom and den. This unit would be essentially an underground unit below the fence line, so not affecting the neighbors. And then the second one, that would be right at the fence line, fence height. So you're still not really visible from the neighbors on either side. And it's shorter than the one that's over here, 1123. And then doing a 16-foot extension for the top unit, which would be a 3-bedroom unit. So we still have family housing there, along with the 1-bedroom and 1-bedroom. So essentially just kind of adding an additional 1-bedroom. So that's pretty much the only difference that would be from all the other homes that are on that block. And also, in speaking with some of the neighbors in the neighborhood, they kind of want to make sure that we weren't changing the look of the block like they had done at 1123 and 1125. So the front of the house will actually stay exactly the same. And then it will be set back. The 4th floor addition would be set back from the front to make it not visible from the street. With 7-foot setbacks, so you can kind of see that illustrated here. So if you're standing on the street over here and you're looking up at the building, you only see just the normal front. So it looks the same as the neighbor, the Hales on the right side, 1119. they were very vocal about wanting it to keep the same look on the front. So we wanted to make sure we did that for them. And then this is kind of a mock-up of what the rear would look like. So we're kind of like stepping down from what was already done previously. Since we have this large extension next to us, we were trying to get something, not be as, kind of imposing on the Hales home right here, keeping ours much shorter than what the previous folks had done in 1123 and 1125. And then also we had a sun study. I guess I can let.
You want me to take you through that?
Yeah, he can go more into the sun study because we wanted to make sure that it was not much effect on the Hales next door at 1119.
So can I share screen?
Oh, my bad.
I think I can do it. Yeah. So the sun study show, and I'll go through this really quickly. I understand time situation. We're showing existing conditions to proposed conditions here. And because of the two large buildings to the east, when you're looking at the shade, the difference between existing conditions and proposed conditions on the neighboring property are really negligible because the shade the shadows are being cast by the neighboring buildings, right? When you come up in the morning with the sun in the east, our building doesn't cast any additional shadow or shade because the two large buildings to our east are casting the shadows in shade. So when the sun comes around at 1 p.m., it's actually sort of facing our building. So we're not giving more shade. So there's almost no difference. There's a couple of instances when I'll go down here. So what we showed, and I'll send you this document so you have this. I don't think you're going to absorb everything tonight. We're showing existing conditions, the current state versus the proposed conditions, okay? Then we're doing a study which is showing the matter of right, what the 10-foot setback compared to our proposed conditions. And you can see there's a little bit of difference here with the shadows at 9 a.m. During the summer solstice that show some additional shadows cast on the neighboring property at 11:19 and 11:17. 11:17, it's actually, they won the BZA case, so they're having an addition. So the shadow cast on 11:17 is not going to be consistent to what we're showing here because we're showing what the existing condition is. So long and short of this, there's a couple of instances at specific times where you have some slivers of shadow that our building will be casting that will be different from what is the existing condition, a matter of right, to what is proposed. If you have any questions on that, I'll be able to answer any questions, but the impact of the sun studies show that there's a negligible effect of our proposed addition, specifically because Brandon had directed us that we wanted to pull the second and third story towards the front and not have that extend the full 32 feet that was proposed previously, that we're actually pulling that back 16 feet, which really makes a significant difference.
Okay. Mr. Jackson, do you have a hearing date scheduled?
I was trying to find the hearing date and I don't see it. I don't know, kind of what's going on with BZA because we've had it submitted. We can see the receipts and everything that everything's in, but I don't see a date in their calendar yet.
I didn't see it either. I went all the way to August. They have the calendar up to August and it's not there.
I was looking at it before the meeting. I still don't see the dates. I'm not sure. I don't know if it's just stuff just kind of slowing down. You know, with COVID and everything. I don't know what's the delay on the date.
You have some support for some neighbors, is that correct, Brandon?
Yes, the neighbors at 1117. I guess they would be the ones who actually caught a little more of the shadow, but there's gonna be changing. I believe 1135 and the condo building next door at 1123.
(1123) is one of the larger buildings.
Yeah.
And those two buildings were done before they changed the regulations. That's why they're.
Yeah, those two buildings were done as a matter of right prior to the zoning regulations changing in 2016, late 2016. So those were developed under the previous zoning regulations. That's correct.
Right. Yes. And you did mention the Hill, so they're giving you a letter of support.
I don't have a letter from them yet. We had a letter from them previously for the last time we went to BZA with the 30-foot extension. This one we've taken it down, but you know, I'm in communication all the time trying to figure out exactly what stuff they want. You know, so I made sure that, you know, that's why we're including the setback and not trying to change the front of the building, you know, and trying not to cast a shadow on their deck, you know, stuff like that. And then trying to figure out, you know, if there's anything we can help them along with during the, you know, during the whole process, like, you know, the chimney extension and stuff like that.
Oh, you do? Okay, so you have to extend that chimney, so you will be doing that.
Yes, yes.
And they agreed to that, but you just don't have it in writing.
Yes.
Okay, and so you're expecting it.
Yeah, for the chimney, yes, yes.
Okay, all right. And you don't have a hearing date set. I don't know if the other commissioners, you know, you heard a lot of talk about reviewing items. So commissioners, since there's not a date and the document is here, ANC 5D06, we have a single member district meeting next Tuesday. I don't know if we want to have you present, but maybe we can have the information. Well, it's on the BZA website. And yes, maybe I'll have Kevin Horgan give a report at that time.
Kevin's the development committee?
Yes.
Sure, we've spoken with him about this
right
a couple of times. And I can't say how he would vote on this, but it seemed
well, he doesn't vote, he gives a recommendation, but I'm just saying I will have him speak at the single member district meeting next week on the case. And if and see if I'll talk to him if he wants to contact you, or if he has a report that we'll share with the neighbors and everything. They don't have an ANC commissioner, 5D06. But we do have a joint Trinidad SMD next Tuesday. So we'll discuss it then. Since you don't have a hearing date, it doesn't look like you have one in August, and they take a break after August 5th. So it looks like your hearing date won't be till September.
Yeah, at the earliest.
Yeah, so we'll be able to vote on it in September. And then if everything is approved, since we're sort of planning a special meeting so far, we look like we're going to have another meeting before July. If everything, you know, if the neighbors, we get full support from the neighborhood, Mr. Horgan's report, it's positive, you get that letter for the Hills, we could put it on in July just to get it out, just to have it done. But since you don't have a hearing date. So I thank you. Any questions from commissioners?
You're saying you could possibly do a vote in July?
A special, yeah, we'll have a special, after I meet with the constituents of next Tuesday.
Got it.
And get more input directly from them.
Okay.
And I'll take input from them tonight, actually. There's no questions out there, guys. I don't see anything to chat. We sort of losing folks now. We gone down to 23 people, so. So that's the number. So we might get more. We get more. I like what I see though. I like what I see, and that I see that you did step it back. So I do like that. Commissioners, do we still have a quorum? I don't see Commissioner Black now.
We don't.
We don't have a quorum anymore either. So we'll leave it with that. If we'll see.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yep.
When you're saying you're going to go to your single district and you'll discuss this, would we present again if you have a July meeting, or could you just vote on the information that you've seen, or how would that work? Let's say you talked about having a meeting in July that wasn't scheduled, but you think that you should have one just because of everything that's going on and the necessity. So I guess we would request to have a vote in July, because if we go up in September and we get our BZA hearing and we have a conflict with ANC meeting that we don't get the vote in time for the BZA meeting, I don't want to speak for you, Brandon, but I think it would be good to get a vote if we can in July.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to give you a vote too in July if it's all our September meeting is September 8th, and the BZA hearings on Wednesday. So of course you got Wednesday the 2nd, and the next one will be Wednesday the 9th if you're scheduled.
But if we have either the 2nd or the 9th, if your meeting's the 8th, and there's, it's really to get that narrative written up and do it. If we can do it, I'm just, if we can do it in July, we were here last month, we're here this month. If we can get a vote on July, because if it's the 2nd of September or the 9th and your meeting is the 8th, we could miss the vote, and it would be really important to have that and to have the support of the ANC if possible.
Well, I would agree with you. I like to have it in July too, since if we're having a special meeting to put that on the agenda. The only reason why I would say it would not get, if I don't get positive feedback from the single member district meeting or the two commissioners, say they want to examine the project. I know we saw it last month. I've been looking at it. I haven't spoke to Kevin about it to see what kind of input he would have. But my goal would be for us to, since we're meeting in July, is to have it on the agenda July for a vote.
Just to clarify for folks, we really need to meet the last week of June.
Right, yeah, the last week of June.
If we're submitting budget feedback, then those hearings start the first week of July, the end of that first week in June.
Right, so that's what I meant.
We're happy for a vote the end of June.
As
well.
Right, yeah.
But I want to say that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And we were here last month. We were hoping to have a vote this month, and that didn't happen. And if we go on recess for July and August and we can't get a vote until the 8th of September, it could jeopardize our BZA hearing date that we don't have input from the ANC, some type of documentation from the ANC.
And just to, in the past, we have voted on Tuesday and I've supported on Wednesday. So we have done it, but I don't want to do it that way. So if we can get it done, I'm looking at the calendar now, so that would be June 30th. The last Tuesday in June. So by all means.
Okay. And
we'll
get you whatever information we can. You have the Sun study and the drawings, right? The drawings and renderings. And if you need myself or Brandon to be, here at video next week for the single district to answer any questions, I'm glad to do that as well. So just
a quick comment on the timing here. I've got a note from Kevin just saying that preliminary analysis is positive for this project. And that he can send the reports over the weekend so that we would have the final report from the zoning and development folks over the weekend.
Well, that would be great, because then you'd have it in time for the single district meeting, right? If you get it this weekend, because that's next week.
Yeah.
And you'll have time to review the recommendation of the development committee.
Yes, we will. Okay. Thank you again.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. And where we last on the agenda. Hopefully everyone can get to bed soon. All right.
Yeah, we had one more.
We have one more?
One more.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to sign off, but feel free to reach out if you want us present next week. I'll be available. And then if Kevin gets the report to you, that will be great.
I'm also available anytime.
Okay. Well, and also even that, if you'll see the link for the single member district meeting, you can just check in if you want to, but I'll look at the report and see what the neighbors say. I know the Hales personally, so I'll give them a call so they can get that letter in so we can have everything.
Okay. Sounds good.
Right. Thanks, everyone.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Commissioner Linham, we have one more?
We had the grant for face shields 3D printing update.
Yes, Kevin.
All right. Kevin, you're on mute.
There you go.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
Hey, everybody. So I'm just here tonight to give an update on the ANC community grant that you guys awarded me back in April. And I can try to do a real quick screen share if I can figure out how to get my laptop to work. How do I do this? Oh, it says host disabled.
Made Kevin a panel.
Making you a co-host right now. Sorry.
All right, let's try this, and I can do an application.
Commissioner Moore is much better at this seamless behind the scenes transition. So my apologies.
So, all right, I hope you are all seeing my screen.
Yes.
See if I can do this. So I kind of took my last slides. I'm going to try to be really, really quickly. The objective of this proposal was to build and distribute at cost 200 face shields. We were to use the grant money to purchase the materials for the face shields. And then we were to use DC Public Library printers to actually fabricate them. Prior to this, I'd been donating face shields with a work printer I have in my house. I brought it home for telework and I put it to use making PPE in the meantime. So on May 15th, I picked up the 3. It took us longer than expected to get the printers from DC Public Library, but we got them on May 15th. 2 of the 3 didn't work quite well, but we got them working within pretty quickly. And then I got them into the hands of a neighbor and then one of my buddies who's an engineer. He does not live in 5D, but he was willing to operate the printer. First week went a little rough, but about a week later, we hit our full stride. And basically 2 weeks of full production, we hit the ANC's goal of 200 face shields yesterday.
Excellent.
And as of today, we've delivered 213 with another, I actually can't see what my slides are, another 17 deliveries pending. And this is a quick list of who we've donated to. Delta Towers, DC Coalition for the Homeless, Men's Shelter, Stoddard Nursing Home in Northeast, Little Sisters of the Poor, Stoddard Nursing Home in Northwest. Paramedics stopped by. I put a post up on Nextdoor this weekend and I got some good response from there. Some nurses, social workers, another nurse who works at the Carl Manor Nursing Home, Deanwood Rehab and Wellness, HIPS, and I've actually got some pending deliveries to Ward 5 Mutual Aid and another neighbor of mine who's a nurse. So, and of course, in parallel to this, I keep making face shields on the side of my work printer. So we've got, I think the final count, because we've run out of the ANC filament, we'll probably hit, I think the final count will be 230 face shields from the ANC DC Public Library. That is, I consider that a success. I'm going to keep making, I had considered applying for another ANC grant, but actually there are some restrictions, and it's not the ANC 5D's issue. There's restrictions on how all ANCs have to use their community grant funds. And my personal preference is to have less restrictions so I can give the face shields to whoever the hell wants me. I've given them to, for my personal stock, I've donated to like barbers and nail salons and anyone who has to deal with the public. The agreement with the DC Public Library, we could only kind of give them to healthcare and nursing organizations. I want to donate to whoever knocks on my door. And the other reason I'm not donating to, I'm not asking for another grant, is I would like to pause my PPE making, because you can't go marching on the streets in the morning or in the afternoon and walk into a nursing home in the evening, to donate face shields. You can't do the, so I've actually not participated in last week's protests because I need to continue to isolate myself because I'm making medical devices and donating them. So I'm going to put a pause on that and give myself a break so I can focus on other equally worthy things. So so that's the status of the grant. I consider it a success. And with that, I'll if anyone has any questions, I'm open.
I just want to say thank you. You know, I think we did a lot of work behind the scenes to make this possible. You know, you're fixing machines, you know, and I just think, you know, this is totally unprecedented. You know, not just the situation that we're in, but the response that we've seen from the community. And I just appreciate the way you stepped in with a good idea, and the way DCPL was willing to step out on a limb and loan us their you know, multi-$1,000 machines for us to use in this effort. I think it involved a lot of hard work from a lot of people whose hearts were in the right place, and we dotted our I's and crossed our T's, and we're able to get it done. So I'm just grateful to everyone who was willing to put some effort forward and show each other some trust and get it done.
And I'm gonna say ditto to keep it moving.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much, Kevin.
Yes.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Now it's time for community feedback. Is any
We do. So Emma Beckerman, I do not want to miss you.
Where is she?
You are able to talk with us now.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I'll be quick because a lot of time, and I don't know if anyone they probably dropped off by now from the mayor's office, and Commissioner Linhan wanted me to come on hoping that they would be on, or someone from the councilman's office. So I don't know how useful this will be, but the sidewalk near me under the underpass on Florida Avenue by the Metro is not 6 feet wide. It's very dangerous to walk by. It was too narrow even before coronavirus, but it's impossible for two people to pass 6 feet apart. No one's wearing masks anymore. And there's 3 lanes of traffic going. So I don't see why they can't close one lane. They close it for construction all the time. So I've tried through the NOMA Business Improvement District, like the city said. They haven't responded to me. Commissioner Linhan was the only one who has responded to me, and everyone I've contacted. I've tried tagging 311 on Twitter and they've ignored me. So I don't know if there's anything you need from me. I know other people have tried for the same sidewalk as well. So I'm happy to do whatever it takes I've been trying since April.
Emma, thank you for sticking around so late and sharing this. I know that with that construction happening in that area, the city's probably hesitant to close that street. I can say I've been personally fighting for sidewalks in Ivy City, which are far narrower to be expanded, and still no relief there either. But I can make a request to see if there's anything like that could be accommodated. But I wouldn't hold your breath.
All right, thank you.
All right, thanks, Emma.
Support that. Any other questions?
I don't see any other hands raised or any other Q&A from the public.
So we're going to turn it over to Ryan to close out for your...
I didn't want to follow Kevin. I mean, that was the perfect closure in my opinion. Again, thank you, Kevin, for accomplishing such a great feat for our neighbors. I have nothing to say other than I am supportive of a July meeting or a late June meeting.
June the 30th, Commissioner Moore.
Yeah, I support that. And I think we need to get together on our special meeting for June 30th and work out, because I think that there are a few things that we need to get on the agenda around, some of the criminal justice reform measures that I think are really in the zeitgeist right now, and make sure that we're holding the people who represent us at this level, at the higher level, accountable for responding to, the issues that we're facing in this community.
And so I'm fading. Thank you, Commissioner Moore. I just want to say, as 5D07, I just thank you for serving. Everyone who has served with us throughout this pandemic. I think we transitioned very well to Zoom. And I like the participation that we're seeing, even though it's fading now. just want to remind all our constituents that we are up for re-election, and I don't know if we missed the deadline for the nominating period. We have not.
6.
But reason why I'm saying I will not be running for this for 5D07 due to family reasons. So I want somebody out there to pick up the mantle and take to join in. I just realized I might ask my son to do it because he's not dealing with the same responsibilities I'm dealing with. But just so I want people to know that so we can be represented. I started out as a write-in candidate because nobody wanted the position. So I don't want that to happen for people because you have to stand on the corner and, you know, with this thing, I'd rather you get your nominate petition in so you can be on the ballot and we'll have to stand, you know, we don't know how election's going to go now, but you probably definitely will be using Nextdoor to contact people to get your thoughts and ideas out. And it's always good for change. And that's one thing I'm not against, even though I've been here a long time and I'm learning to accept change. And that's been a good thing for me. So I really appreciate everybody sticking out the last 20 or so. We started off with 49. Did I see 49? 40?
Yeah, I think it was probably upwards of there at some point.
Yes. So, and I think that's also meeting how we have, that's probably the same amount of people we have when we have the in-house meetings. So that's good. We've been consistent, but we like to see more since it's Zoom and you're at home. But of course, you people are staying on. It's not you we're talking to. But if you can get more of your neighbors to come in and join us on these meetings so we have more input, I think we're getting better every meeting. We're kind of long. That's because everybody's sitting in their living room and I'm being long right now instead of just saying good night, stay safe, and be blessed.
Yes.
All right, that concludes the meeting.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good night.